All right.
Okay, here he is. Let's welcome Link Ray.
This is the only instrumental to have ever been banned from the radio. Alright, what I want to take a look at is, this is a BBC story. I really do like the BBC. Anyway, this is a BBC story. Let's see what we can dig up here.
Accusations of a field in crisis or at a crossroads. Tensions have been rising between autism researchers and the community their work is intended to benefit, particularly on social media.
On social media, it often feels like road rage. It's as if you don't see the harm that you do to somebody. And that's true when a scientist is careless about how they talk about autism. And it's also true when an autistic self-advocate is really angry with somebody maybe early in their career who's trying to get it right, but has got it wrong. If I was an early career researcher who was interested in lots of things, and
okay, so they're definitely not talking about me.
I put out my first paper on autism and it was slammed by the community, I probably might step in another direction.
I would say that tension's always been there. It's just being recognised now.
Dr. Damien Milton is one of a few openly autistic researchers in the field of autism research. He says,
This is about Autism Speaks, I believe, is what it's supposed to be about. Oh, you know what? This may not be about Autism Speaks. That's a bummer. Okay, what a bummer. That's alright. We will find plenty of criticism. I don't know if I've seen this girl or not.
Autism Speaks is the biggest autism organization in the US. That's terrible.
I think I might have, though. We'll see.
And here's why. First of all, I'm gonna be reading this little bit for ultimate accuracy. According to the FBI, a hate group's primary purpose is to promote animosity, hostility, and malice against persons belonging to a race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, or ethnicity/national origin, which differs from that of the members of the organization. Keep that in mind.
Let's see if I can find something better. I am trying to find autism moms are ableist. Meltdowns, autism moms. How autism is such a troubling, challenging disorder. What makes it worse is that Autism Speaks. Okay, so they're just gonna.
Finding a reputable business shouldn't require luck or chance. But how can you tell who you can trust? Always look for
for their own. Let me explain.
Autism mom does not mean all moms of autistic children. It refers to those ableist parents that uses the label autism mom for pity points. Complains about autism being a burden on them, has toxic hero complex, belittles autistic adults that are open about their autism experience, and says stuff like "you're nothing like my autistic child," and autism isn't your entire personality, it is my entire personality. While simultaneously making their child's autism their entire personality, which is true. Prime example of this being wearing the autism merch that is made specifically for caregivers of autistic children, not for autistic people. They may support Autism Speaks, often use puzzle pieces in first-person language. First-person language being a person with autism, as if it's a disease, and very likely emotionally and maybe physically abused or, well, I don't know about that.
How do you
maybe.
spot an autism mum? Here are some red flags. Puzzle
Oh,
piece
yeah.
tattoos.
Yep.
The puzzle piece represents finding a cure, the missing piece of the puzzle being a cure. Also, it represents how autism is such a troubling, challenging disorder. What makes it worse is that autism...
And this is the thing that Autism Speaks does stand for, and they do stand behind, and they do agree with.
adopted the puzzle piece. Autism Speaks is like a literal hate group. Instead, we use the infinity sign. Puzzle piece necklaces, puzzle piece profile pictures, puzzle piece merch. I see a lot of autism mums selling merch. They use their child's identity as their own, as if it's theirs to claim. Like, yes, you're their parent. That doesn't make their disability your disability. Just because you live with an autistic person doesn't mean you can claim that you're an autism mum. The only people that can call themselves an autism mum are mums who are autistic. Purple Ella, B. Like, these are examples of some incredible autism creators.
I don't know who she
happen
is.
To be parents and autistic. They are actual autism mums.
I know
because
Purple
they
Ella.
are autistic, so they can claim that identity because it's their identity.
Will I get over it? No.
I just missed it. What did that
They
say?
are autistic, so they can claim that identity because it's their identity.
Will I get over it? No.
Goddess of bees.
I'm gonna rip you apart. I want to apologize.
When these autism mums make it their whole identity, that's not your identity. That's your child. You're weird.
You're not an autistic parent. You're an holistic parent of an autistic child, and you're using your disabled child for views and content. That's fucking weird. Fucking stop it.
Sorry, I'm like really angry in this video because it just ruffles my feathers. I spread awareness because I have a voice and my child doesn't. So you're speaking over autistic people. If you wanted to spread autism awareness, don't post your child's meltdowns online. Another red flag of autism mums is that they're anti-vax. Autism is genetic.
They're into
Another
some
red flag
kind of
is that they constantly
snake oil.
complain about it's so hard to have an autistic child. It's so hard.
But imagine how tired we are. Imagine how tired we are of it.
It reminds me of this video that I saw on TikTok of this mum like complaining about how hard it is to have an autistic child. It's like, being a parent is hard. Why do you have to put the word autistic?
I've got yeah, exactly. Being a parent is hard, period. Or easy for me. It was pretty easy for me.
in front of it. Like, sure, like, autism comes with challenges, but, like, think about how hard it is for autistic people to deal with these meltdowns, not having to be the one to deal with them. That shit is making them feel like a burden, is making them feel less than human. Not only is it dehumanizing,
Absolutely.
it's horrible. Imagine you're a child and you stumble across your mum's TikTok of them posting your meltdowns online, complaining about how hard it is for them. And then you would see that and be like, wow, I'm literally a burden.
What's the difference between a service animal and an emotional support pet? Well, a service animal has to go through long and expensive training so it can work and carry out tasks for people with disabilities. But an ESA pet doesn't. In fact, an emotional support pet is exactly that. A regular pet who offers its owner emotional support through love and companionship without training. So if your pet is your therapy, take this short quiz to see if they qualify as an emotional support animal. And if they are approved, a local medical doctor will electronically send your official ESA approval via digital mail that protects your right to have your pet with you by federal law. That means your pet can stay with you in places with no pet policies and save you money by...
That was weird.
Go walk the actual hell.
Autistic people are not burdens. They literally use their disabled children for views, clout. I already do have a problem with family channels and like using your child for views. Using your disabled child for views and content and claiming it's for awareness.
I wanted to talk about a video that I saw of a parent posting an autistic child's meltdown. This is what the video said. The side of autism that people don't see because blank child's name didn't get her way. It's not always a happy house. I'm posting this because I always told you I'd keep it real. And then showed a child in so much distress, screaming, crying, and then I'm assuming the dad picked her up by the arms and threw her back onto a chair. Because that is absolutely disgraceful to do to any child, let alone a child that is having a meltdown because of something to do with their autism. And then the parent that threw her walks out of the room and the other parent is literally sitting there just recording the child while she starts having self-injurious behaviors and smacking her head off her knee because she's in that much distress. And then the parents decided, we're going to put that on the internet because we need to show everyone else how disgraceful it is in our household when our child's upset. I'm literally shaking talking about it now. I was nearly in tears. It's never okay to do that. Your disabled child isn't for show and tell.
Hey, autistic person here, and I just want to say it is absolutely disgusting and vile that you are demonizing and exploiting your kid in such a disgusting way. It's funny, you say the side of autism that people don't see, but that's the only side of autism people see. You always see online, oh my autistic kid broke my iPad, oh my autistic kid threw a tantrum. That's the only thing you see, and that is why when people think of autism, they think of bratty kids who throw tantrums and cry and scream. That child is very clearly distressed and probably overstimulated, and they need your help and your support more than anything. And you choose to sit on your ass and film a video of them. You choose to film a video of your child in their most vulnerable state, all so you can get some TikTok likes. And that guy in the video, I don't even know, he threw that kid on the couch and walked away. Like, great helping your child. I hate parents that do this stuff. All you want is a little bit of fame for your child's meltdown.
Not only because of the meltdowns that they're naturally having.
I'm trying to see if he's gonna go to Autism Speaks here.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like, Thorn is a black.
Vulnerable moments on the internet.
There is.
What the fuck?
I did not like
will
this
not
one.
even repeat them. I think it's time to take down the video. To the video. And I'm a strong.
Child is having a meltdown, and your first thought is, let's record this, and let's put this on. Sees this and responds accordingly.
Nasty comments I've heard, I'm not going to repeat them.
For context, these parents filmed a meltdown that their autistic daughter was having and then posted it on their page, and it has over 6 million views. They posted it saying that they did it for awareness, even though there was no context or education attached to the video. And I'm a strong believer that children's vulnerable moments should not be posted publicly on the internet, even if it is for awareness or education. The video was not well received, and by no surprise, the comment section was breeding ableism, and there was people saying pretty nasty things about their daughter. Obviously, that is not okay, and that is unacceptable behavior. However, when you are a parent, especially when you are a parent of a disabled child and you post their vulnerable moments on the internet, you are creating a space for people to be ableist and for people to bully your child. If things are being said about your daughter that are so terrible that you will not even repeat them, I think it's time to take down the video. Not only does that video do absolutely nothing about spreading awareness for autism, it is breeding ableism and creating stigma around autism. And it also is putting your daughter's safety at risk. As an autistic person and a parent of autistic children, this behavior is absolutely unacceptable, and it is a space that you have created.
Where are you from?
Nope, not your job.
What donut?
Oh, fuck off.
What makes you laugh?
Oh my God, that guy said, Jesus, why do you think? What happened in your life that makes you think you're this special?
My son's autistic.
Oh my God, and so are you. I mean, where do you think he got his lack of social cues from? Holy shit, 3 times, miss. What the fuck? Yeah, I don't want to connect with you. I'm not your son. I'm sorry. Oh my God. What is this? What is this? Don't. At least you're smirking now. If you're alone, I found a woman who really wants a connection. She needs something. She came to a comedy show. She's like, I hope there's an autistic comedian I can heckle into loving me. Son, come home, Mom. I've missed you.
Apart from the normal bigotry and homophobia and racism and stuff, there is nothing on this platform, and I mean nothing, worse than autism mummies. So this video recently came up on my For You page. If you can't read it, I'm going to read it to you. The side of autism people don't see, all because couldn't about having a meltdown and then posting it for sympathy online saying, look how bad
autistic. I said
Mark Zuckerberg just built a $100 million bunker in Hawaii.
If they're going to talk about Autism Speaks here.
my son has autism, so you're not an autism mom. What do you mean? Yes, I am, but you're not autistic. What do you... No, listen, my son's autism is something that you've made a cornerstone of your personality? Excuse me, how dare you? Let me guess, you're his voice. Well, who else is going to be? He is. He's going to be his voice. He has a voice. He's using it right now to talk to some of the others here. Well, listen, they're just not as good at communicating, okay? Better at it if you listen. Wait, we? Yes. I'm autistic. And I've been speaking to you this entire time. And
Still looking for Autism Speaks PSA. This is another Autism Speaks. Oh God, I have not seen this one.
Autism,
this might be scary.
Finding the right words can be tough. Finding understanding doesn't have to be. With your help, we can increase understanding and acceptance of people.
This is just
AutismSpeaks.org.
Oh wait, I guess that is what.
When it comes to autism, finding the right words can be tough. Finding understanding doesn't have to be. With your help, we can increase understanding and acceptance of people with autism. Go to AutismSpeaks.org.
Go to AutismSpeaks.org.
Go to
Don't go to the autistic community. The autistic community is not qualified. Does not know anything about autism or anything else. Make sure you go to. I got to give them one thing. That at least they've got a darker background. Usually it's a blue puzzle piece with a white background that really hurts to look at. So I mean that's an improvement. That was 4 years ago. So they've gone back to the white background now. Don't like Autism Speaks. Okay, now this lady I do not like at all. She is very ableist and very pious. Like she's just like Autism Speaks. She has all the answers. This is 8 years ago. So she's going to be defending Autism Speaks. She's going to be defending genocide. Okay? Because that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to commit genocide. They wanted to ensure that no autistic person was born. And they wanted to cure autism so that no autistic brain existed. So they wanted to change this brain to make it a different brain, because whether I liked it or not, that was their purpose, was to cure autism. And thank goodness we know better than that. But let's see what she has to say here.
You know, I've read the op-ed piece, as have a lot of you, and there have been an awful lot of people with an awful lot to say, and I just want to put my 2 cents in about this.
Hopefully, at least it will be appreciated that I am being fair here and allowing the lady to speak.
One of the hugest things being discussed in the op-ed piece is the fact that at this moment in time, there's no one on the board of directors for Autism Speaks who identifies themselves as being on the autism spectrum. And Mr. Silberman takes
And as of now, there is
exception to that, as do a lot of people in the autism community. You know, I think that that's an important discussion to have. I would.
Okay, well, the discussion that needs to be had is the $39 million that went to Autism Speaks. That was net. And a little over $400,000 was earmarked, went to autistic families. Not these things that you want to talk about. We want to talk about the lobbying that's going on and why Autism Speaks' name is being all mixed up with getting the Republicans elected into the House of Representatives, which we can look at right here at Open Secrets. Right there. To the National Republican Congressional Committee, which is I've been here once or twice. Okay, right here. The National Republican Congressional Committee is a political committee devoted to increasing the number of Republicans in the House of Representatives. $132,000 given in the name of Autism Speaks. Note, this is how they cover it up in corporate America. The organization itself did not donate. Rather, the money came from the organization's individual members, employees, or owners, and those individuals' immediate family members. The organizations themselves cannot contribute to candidates and party committees. The totals include subsidiaries and affiliates. So basically, people are doing favors by like having the CEO's husband or wife or whatever donate money, or daughter or whatever donate, $50,000 or $40,000 or whatever it is, and then they start getting favors back.
Say that they are certainly not the only organization of their kind.
Yeah, there's lots of organizations that like to take the money of people with good intentions that is earmarked for the autistic community and go spend it on their own Porsches and so forth. That's very common.
That doesn't have a board member that identifies themselves with part of what the discussion is. But
so now
here's the thing for me.
She's trying to justify it. Well, everybody else is like that. No, consensus is that's a logical fallacy. Just because the consensus is something doesn't necessarily mean it is correct.
We say so often and we hear so often that I love the phrase, nothing about us without us. And that is something that is very near and dear to my heart.
Yet, instead of her having an autistic person talking on her show for themselves, she's talking instead of an autistic person. Right? Hi, Auntie Kristen.
But as we mentioned, this idea of perspective taking earlier, let's all take a step back and say, let's all take a little perspectives taking and say, what is the us in the sentence? And I have so many friends who are adults, who are on the autism spectrum, who I respect so much.
There's two us's. There's your crowd, the Autism Mom crowd, the ABA Autism Speaks crowd, and then there's the actually autistic crowd. That's what the answer is to that.
Who say, well, the us is individuals who are diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder. And
nope, that's the actually autistic community. The us is all whatever you want to put in the other
some
category.
of them disagree about whether it should be called a disorder or not. That is the current term, that is how it is identified and diagnosed.
Some, really, well, okay, this is 13, how many years ago? 8 years ago? No, most people in the autistic community do not like it referred in any way, shape, or form to be regarded as a disease. That's why, in general, we prefer identity, identity first. I'm autistic or an autistic person, because you cannot separate the autism from the person. And it is not a disease. It's something we are born with and we always have.
I am longing for a day in which it's not called a disorder, but for now, these are the words that we have been given. We can choose to use them or not. And my friends who are on that spectrum say the us is individuals with that diagnosis. When I talk to my friends who are parents, they very clearly say the us is all of us. All of us who are in the autism community.
Now she's talking about, now there's a separation. The actually autistic community from the autism moms and the ABA therapists and stuff. Yeah, that's a whole different crowd.
Because I know I feel as a parent, I am part of the autism community through and through. It is how I feel. I understand that it is not everybody's perspective, but that is my perspective. And I think it's really important. You know, I used to teach college theater, and I used to teach how to do a review for a play. And what first rule of doing a review for the play is you must review the play that you saw, not the one
Don't put us to sleep, please.
you wanted to see. So if somebody goes to see a musical and they say, I wish this had been Shakespeare, well, that's nice, but it's a musical and it's not Shakespeare.
Danger, danger, I do have narcolepsy.
And when you waste your time judging something by something you wish it was, not what it is, that's exactly what it is, a waste of time. And so there are organizations that are run specifically by individuals who are on the autism spectrum. And I don't go to those and say, where is a parent on your board? Why isn't there a parent on your board? That's not what their organization is about. And
okay. Imagine Germany, say in the 40s or whatever, there's this one party, and imagine them saying that, well, that was just a long time ago, and there doesn't have to be anybody on our board because we're still making decisions for those people that we all did terrible things to. But we represent them now, and if you're one of those people, you come to us and we will tell you. And none of you people need to be on the board. We know better. Or if you want to go to the United States, there are these people that like to wear sheets. Right? What if those people said, well, the people that we did those horrible things in the 60s, that was just a long time ago, but now we are their voice. We speak not only for them, but instead of them. And they don't need to be on the board that's literally what she's saying about autism. And it is just as bad as both of those situations because they're talking about genocide. And I am not saying, I do not mean to say that the totality is the same, but I'm saying that the end part is unlifing.
While I agree that I think that
in all situations.
Autism Speaks will only be stronger if they have a board
So
member.
let's listen to her again.
Go to those and say, where is a parent on your board? Why isn't there a parent on your board?
Okay, so
That's
she's
what
not. Okay, so she's not defending this. She's actually saying what I'm saying.
Organization is about. And while I agree that I think that Autism Speaks will only be stronger if they have a board member, I think it's very easy to sit back and say, I don't like what that organization does. Well, if you don't, then
Of course it is. When they collect $39 million, their executives are getting millions of dollars, and they're still putting millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars into scientific research, which Autism Speaks will never ever be trusted, no matter what, ever. As long as they're giving to any kind of scientific research, which they still are, and it's not Open Secrets, it's Nonprofit Explorer. Okay, this is the 2023 filing. And yeah, right down here is, where is it? That's too low. Okay, all these are the science grants. Millions and millions of dollars all going to science. Why can't they stop putting that money away where they'll never be trusted and simply change gears and put those directly to services for autistic people? How about that? Okay. I went off on a tangent and I forgot where I'm at. What was I looking at? What was I looking at? Yeah, it is, and the thing is they're still continuing that line of thinking. That's the problem. Okay, it was this gal here.
words that we have been given, we can choose
So she's actually right here on this one.
and diagnosed. I am longing for a day in which it's not called a disorder, but for now, these are the words that we have been given. We can choose to use them or not. And my friends who are on that stand that it is not everybody's perspective, but that is my perspective. And I think it's really important. You know, I used to teach college theater, and I used to teach how to do a review for a play. And what first rule of doing a review for the play is
all I want to say is there is a autistic comedian, and he mentioned this, that it's okay to speak on behalf of autistic people instead of for autistic people. And I would say yes, but Autism Speaks tries to speak instead of autistic people. Here, I think she is trying to speak on behalf of autistic people, but it still rubs me wrong because she never does have autistic people. Maybe she does sometimes on her show, but the ones that I've seen, I haven't really seen her interviewing autistic people.
you must review the play that you saw, not the one you wanted to see. So if somebody goes to see a musical and they say, I wish this had been Shakespeare, well, that's nice, but it's a musical and it's not Shakespeare. And when you waste your time judging something by something you wish it was, not what it is, that's exactly what it is, a waste of time. And so there are organizations that are run specifically by individuals who are on the autism spectrum. And I don't go
I'm
to
actually
those
impressed
and
with
say,
her.
where is a parent on your board? Why isn't there a parent on your board? That's not what
I'm really impressed with her right now.
their organization is about. And while I agree that I think that Autism Speaks will only be stronger if they have a board member, I think it's very easy to sit back and
She means an autistic board member.
say, I don't like
And I think they may have one now.
what that organization does. Well, if you don't, then that is not the organization for you to support. And I ask you, what organization have you started?
And TikTok just said, encourage more viewers to share. They give you little prompts.
Publicly want to say to Bob and Suzanne Wright, you've done something really good. And further, I want to say that you've done something really good, and we can tell you've done something really good because not everybody agrees, right? So you must have done something really good. You're furthering the conversation. They put themselves out there in a way that I certainly haven't. I haven't created an organization that has given millions of dollars to research. But if I did...
She started qualifying Autism Speaks there. I haven't raised an organization that's given millions of dollars to research for eugenics.
I would want for a group of people to decide with me about what to give that research to. And if it's not what you want to see the research to go to, then I encourage you to go start an organization that does. We need you to do that. We need more people.
No, it's a very bad idea for Autism Speaks at this point in time to fund any research. Out of all that research that we looked at there's no way to know where any of that money went. Okay, that's not what I was looking for. How do we know where any of this money went? Because it goes to Baylor College of Medicine, or 132,000, the rector and visitors of the University of Virginia, to $250,000, the Research Institute at Nationwide Children's Hospital. How do we know how each dollar that's sent, that none of that would go towards eugenics, or wouldn't go to scientists who are interested in early intervention as elimination of the pregnancy, I guess? And how do we know that they wouldn't do research right now that might be applicable to something that we're doing now that is benevolent, but in 10 years is not used specifically for eugenics or sterilization programs, which have happened in the past? Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, there's no way we'll ever know. Even if we were to go and ask, they may do a million different things, and it goes to, or not a million things. Say they do 10 different studies, and when Autism Speaks donates that money, it goes to whatever, into a pot, into a bank account, and that may have 100 or 500,000 in it, and then they pull out of that. So you don't know where those dollars went, no matter, and so you can't specifically say what program that actually did go to. I know there will be programs that they say it went to, but they're going to have other programs in there that you don't want supported at all that they're not going to mention. You see what I'm saying? Because they can account it. They can put it on the books and allocate it as, and make it look however they want to. But technically, you don't know. It's like, a milk truck. Which cow did it come from? Like, what?
People to do that. But in the meantime, as a group of people, if we can stop dogpiling on each other and saying, I don't like what you're doing, and step back and look at what we're doing, I think that that's really important. And to Mr. Silberman, who one of the sentences that he wrote was, referring to Autism Speaks, imagine a world in which the leadership of the NAACP was all white. Now consider that not a single autistic person serves on the board of Autism Speaks. That absence makes itself felt.
I have never heard this. I can't believe somebody else came up with the same analogy that I did. Like mine's, right?
Now consider that not a single autistic person serves on the board of Autism Speaks. This absence makes itself felt. I want to say to you that
I was kind of afraid to make that analogy because I didn't want people to say I was being like dumb, saying things that I wasn't or anything.
I love analogies, but this one is flawed. Because I don't know a single other issue that would get this kind of criticism. I have never heard of anybody walking into a hospital that has a support group for family members that
I would disagree with that compared to the people in white sheets and what they did, and considering what the people that like in Germany did. I think those are a bigger deal overall, although principally because it is about unlifing and exterminating a particular type of human. I would equivocate that, not the totality of how many or in which ways it was done or anything else. I don't want to equivocate any of that or say it's the same by any means. Those are different things, but just in the fact that it's about eliminating a type of human being, that is the same.
That are dealing with cancer, that their family member has cancer, and they're meeting to do a support group about what can we do, how can we help cancer research, how can we make our lives better. I have never heard of somebody coming in and going, I'm sorry, you people cannot be meeting in here unless there is someone with cancer in this room. That would be preposterous, right? So this analogy.
The problem is they weren't trying to unlife the same people that had the cancer. It wasn't their purpose to cure the disease by eliminating the person. So no, you're wrong. That's preposterous. And then having the audacity to say, well, we speak for those cancerous people. We speak instead of them. The ones that we want to eliminate because they have cancer, we're their voice. That's what's going on. And it'd be the same thing as if those people in Germany tried to do that with the people that they were not friendly towards. Same thing with the people in white sheets in the United States, towards the people that they weren't friendly towards or aren't friendly towards.
Technology not working for me, not working at all. If you don't like what Autism Speaks is doing, start your own organization. It's so easy.
Well, the thing is, though, is when they're taking the $39 million from good people, maybe people would have rather given that $39 million to my organization, but I didn't have $25 million to start with, nor do I have corporate America and the UN through favors and through all this lobbying stuff. Oh, have we not talked about the lobbying? Oh, we have not talked about the lobbying recently, have we? OpenSecrets.org, $134,000 went to the National Republican Committee. The National Republican Committee is... Whoops. Watch this. Let the magic happen. The National Republican Congressional Committee is a political committee devoted to increasing the number of Republicans in the House of Representatives. Autism Speaks has their name attached to this, $132,000. Not to mention this $370,000. Granted, because it's corporate America and this is how corporate America works. Note, caveat. Note the organization itself did not donate. Rather, the money came from the organization's individual members, employees, owners, individual immediate family members. The organizations themselves cannot contribute. So, like, your husband is like so rich, you're just like, babe, I'm going to write a check for $100,000 to go to the National Republican Committee so that we can get Republicans in the House of Representatives, but we're going to donate it in the name of Autism Speaks. Is that like even real? Yep.
Easy to sit and complain. It's so easy to judge and say that.
So this is pretty. She's impressed me with what she's said so far. I thought she was going to talk a lot more about Autism Speaks. That's okay?
Not how I would have done it. Then be the change you want to see. Start your organization. I'll give you some time here on the show if you want to start your own charity that does the things that you think are important. I challenge you to do that.
I should start my charity. The Autism Speaks should do an interview with me charity. How about that? And I'll take her to task. I'll be like, well, this is the Autism Speaks should speak with an actually autistic person charity foundation thing. Nonprofit thingy. I used to do petting zoos, and I never did charge anything for those. Okay, I'm still looking for Autism Speak stuff. Throwback Thursday. Okay, here's a short.
What do autistic people think of Autism Speaks? You can't put Autism Speaks in one of your top 3 resources, for goodness sakes, AI, and some support, some don't. Oh, really? Okay, well, the people that support it say it's doing important work to raise awareness. That sounds like it's come from their website. Get stuffed. Those who oppose Autism Speaks often say the organisation's messaging is harmful and stigmatising. They also say that the organisation's focus on finding a cure for autism is misguided. No crap. And that it does not take into account the perspectives of autistic people. No, it doesn't. It's a bloody stupid organisation. Autism Speaks has been criticised for its use of fear-mongering language and for its portrayal of autism as a tragedy. No, a tragedy is the direction you gave to the people on that Good Doctor show. The organisation has been criticised for its lack of representation of autistic people in its leadership and its board of directors. That's because, most of them are people who, have autistic grandkids or kids and just wanted to be normal. In 2019, Autism Speaks released a new strategic plan. Yeah, great. That included a commitment to a more inclusive and respectful approach to advocacy. Well, it hasn't happened.
It has not happened. It's 2024 and it still has not happened.
What do autistic people think of Autism Speaks? You can't put Autism Speaks in one of your top 3 resources, for goodness sakes, AI, and some support, some don't. Oh, really? Okay, well, the people that support it say it's doing important work to raise awareness. That sounds like it's come from their website. Get stuffed. Those who oppose Autism Speaks often say the organisation's messaging is harmful and stigmatising. They also say that the organisation's focus on finding a cure for autism is misguided. No crap. And that it does not take into account the perspectives of autistic people. No, it doesn't. It's a bloody stupid organisation. Autism Speaks has been criticised for its use of fear-mongering language and for its portrayal of autism as a tragedy. No,
okay, I'm just going to say that Orion Kelly is probably a little autistic. I never say little autistic. Like he's throwing down, man. He's throwing it down. Boom, boom, boom. Holy
tragedy is the direction you gave to the people on that Good Doctor show. The organisation has been criticised for its lack of representation of autistic people in its leadership and its board of directors. That's because most of them are people who...
Man, he is throwing down like one of those little tiny Hispanic or Italian ladies that you do not want to mess with. Bam, bam, whoa. Don't hurt me, please.
Have autistic grandkids or kids and just wanted to be normal.
Well, those little grandmas.
In 2019, Autism Speaks released a new strategic plan. Yeah, great. That included a commitment to a more inclusive and respectful approach to advocacy. Well, it hasn't happened. What do autistic people think of Autism Speaks? You can't put Autism Speaks in one of your top 3 resources.
I'm gonna get in so much trouble. I'm gonna be talking like this, just talking, just smack, not meaning to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm gonna hurt somebody's feelings. I'm gonna feel so bad. Okay, so let me see something here. What filters do I got on right now? Oh, maybe I don't have any filters on this month. And I'm gonna put busted. Sometimes they'll put words like that on there. Misconceptions, truth about employees at the workspace. Oh, wait, I haven't seen this one. This isn't really an Autism Speaks one, though. I did not like this. This is...
Hi there. Since I've joined the cast of The Good Doctor, I've learned much more about the history of autism than I never knew about before.
And notice
how
this nice
perceptions and diagnoses have
this white background. He's got on the Autism Speaks puzzle piece, but a nice white background. Because Autism Speaks doesn't know that white
changed
backgrounds
over
hurt
time.
us. Get the picture. What? What did you say, dude?
Hi there. Since I've joined the cast of The Good Doctor, I've learned much more about the history of autism than I never knew about before. How perceptions and diagnoses have changed over time.
Wow. Okay. That was not his fault. I'm sure he didn't stop like that. They just cut it. I don't want to meet Owen. That was the gem. That's the gem I found today. That was the real gem. I'm trying to see if I can find some more. Oh, okay. I've seen that one. That's not... Uh-oh.
Hi and welcome.
Okay, I like this guy, and I have not seen this. Oh, darn it, I can't like this. I really do like this guy. He's very well spoken, and whatever he has to say here is going to be probably better said than what I can do.
Back to PDA Dad UK in this.
And I've got three of these. Two of them are white, and there's a little tiny thing right on the edge here, right at that gets busted on it all the time. And all three of mine need to be soldered in the same place, right where you plug it in.
This episode, we're going to be looking at a new mini documentary that's been put on YouTube by Autism Speaks. And we're going to have a look at that, and we're going to talk about it and positives that are in there. But
thank you to my most faithful viewer, Autism Speaks.
So yeah, tune in, have a listen, and we'll explain why I have issues with this. So welcome back to PDA Dad UK. Before we go any further, can you just drop down, hit like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so that you know we've got new content coming up. There is lots of good stuff coming up. This week, a video appeared on YouTube from Autism Speaks. Now, Autism Speaks are a company I have, or a charity, supposedly, I have a lot of issues with. I wouldn't have had them if I hadn't engaged with autistic people in my life and understood the damage they're doing. And this is a video that I've watched, and what you're going to see is my reaction as I watched it for the first time and watched it from start to finish, and my input and my comments as we go along. But I have a real issue with Autism Speaks, and that really plays out. I'm going to talk about that at the end.
And you know the thing is we're so accused of being haters and so forth. It's not about hate. It's about what's right. It's about right and wrong. And they should know that. It's about justice.
Start with, I find this really problematic. Constantly looking at the negatives of being a parent to someone with autism or any neurodiversity, but it's focusing on meltdowns.
Any kid.
Straight away. So it's tugging at the heartstrings, and I have a problem with that. It can be really challenging being a parent to someone who has these challenges in their life. But I have a real issue with filming and putting meltdowns onto film like this. These kids are going to grow up. They're going to be autistic adults who are going to look back at this and going to feel awkward or ashamed or whatever it is that goes along with it. Now, there are some situations it's important to be able to just sort of reflect what's going on, and yes, meltdowns are a daily part of life for many parents of autistic kids. It's the focus on that that's my issue. It's starting out with that. It's not going into anything else, but we'll carry on.
Yeah! Hey, dance it. Dance it.
So right away there, you've got a child being dragged by its t-shirt, and that's just unnecessary. I have a problem with this kind of stuff, and it sort of reflects back to the Sia movie, Music, where you had a restraint, but it was shown in completely the wrong context, and for a reason a restraint wasn't required. Here again, you've got a kid crawling around there, dragging it by the t-shirt. That's not an appropriate way to go about things. For a start, it's not safe. I mean, t-shirts goes around the neck, you can cause strangulation. There are safety issues that go along with that kind of stuff. There are appropriate ways you can be trained in. Even look online. There are tutorials on YouTube, if you go and look, that show safe methods of restraint. It's not the most recommended way to go, but it's got to be better than dragging a child by its t-shirt.
You can't really take a day off of autism. Autism.
That was such a little clip. I don't know. I'm not going to make too much judgments on it.
Never took a day off on me.
She needs constant attention. She can't be left alone for a minute.
He has never spoken a single word.
Everything about Daniel's life that seems normal for a typical kid, like going out to dinner or going to a park.
And they're portraying high support needs autistics. All high support needs autistics so far.
All that for us is work. I didn't choose to do this. I'm not a therapist. I was drafted. I have an autistic child.
I was drafted.
Everything I do is about autism.
I have to stay home.
I want to make bad jokes, but I better not.
Because I have to facilitate the therapist going here, going there,
right.
The medication, the constant medical appointments.
I really had to give up my entire life as I knew it.
Well, I left the
I had to give up my entire life. I had a job. I was working.
Job that I never intended to leave.
And I did have to quit my job.
Our entire social life revolves.
And she worked for Autism Speaks. She left Autism Speaks. I don't know under what circumstances, and started another autism research organization after disagreeing with them on, I think, research for vaccinations. They wanted to research for vaccinations, and she didn't like that idea, so she went and started her own research organization. She is also the one who is mostly famous for, and I think this may be the actual scene where her daughter is standing right behind her looking out this window, and she says she was going to thinking about driving her and herself off a bridge because of the autism.
And all of our friends are parents of children with autism.
The parents of autistic children often stick together, and we have to.
Because they understand if your kid is having a meltdown and there's no judgment, it's just that's how it is.
You know, it's very hard to maintain friendships with people that have no idea, like, just how difficult your life is on a day-to-day basis.
They have no idea how easy it is compared to this. You know, your heart is breaking all day long. You know, you think about his future and all the pain he's in.
All the pain he's in, and at least she's thinking about him. But the way she's saying it, it sounds like it's about her. I know she was talking about him, but it sounded like it was about her.
I don't think they can understand that.
And the parents who are going,
that's how it is.
You know, it's very hard to maintain friendships with people that have no idea, like, just how difficult your life is on a day-to-day basis.
They have no idea how easy it is compared to this. You know, your heart is breaking all day long.
Compared to this, their heart is breaking all day long.
You know, you think about his future and all the pain he's in, and I don't think they can understand that.
And the parents who are going out for bagels together and are like, oh, do you want to come for a bagel? And I think, yes, in another life, I'd love to come for a bagel. But right now, I have to write down what he's doing so we can go home and work on that. And then I have to take the other two to therapy. So, no, I can't go.
I think the ABA overstresses kids a lot. I know. I can't imagine having a kid like that. Whatever they're talking about, both of my kids were autistic, and I mean, they were not really that much Satan. I mean, maybe a little Satan, but you know, that's to be expected. Now, granted, my kids weren't high support needs, and I do have friends that are acquaintances that do have high support needs kids, and it is very different from what I experienced. That being said, they're neurotypical parents too, and that's different too. So I really can't compare their experience to mine at all. I kind of wish I kind of could, but I mean, not that I would want my kids to, you know, have even more challenges or anything. It's just that I wish I could empathize a little bit better and understand where they're coming from, and understand particularly where that autistic person's coming from.
Go for a bagel.
So here they're talking about the difficulties and the challenges that it comes from being a parent to an autistic child. And it does resonate. There are times that I feel this way. And I want to be open-minded about this, and I think this is tapping into something that is a need for many parents. We do feel very isolated. I know it's something that I experienced. My whole social landscape changed. My friends who were friends prior to having an autistic daughter have changed. They don't understand. Many of them are still there though. That's a point.
So I'm pretty sure his daughter got diagnosed, and then I think he knew he had the ADHD or something like that. But I think he does identify as autistic now.
To make is that I can still tap into my old friendships quite happily, and I do maintain those friendships. There is a challenge that comes from you don't get invited out places, you don't get taken to parties and stuff like that because your child is just too difficult to manage in that situation. It gets lumped in the too hard basket. Now that's not right. I'm not saying that for a second, and I think it's a real issue and something that more people.
And I never did do that either.
A lot less people feeling so isolated, but certainly what you do find is that your friendship groups do become people who are like-minded, who are in the same position because they do understand. I think that was something they tapped into.
Now the funny thing is my wife was co-leader of a 4-H club, and I ended up becoming a 4-H leader, not of the club, but a 4-H leader. And our club ended up with all the autistic kids. We literally became known as the special needs club, and all the special needs kids came to us. And now I laugh because it totally makes sense to be,
Yeah, that's very true. Your child is different to a neurotypical child and has different challenges that are going to present themselves from time to time. And when you're dealing with someone who is in that position and they understand from their own experiences, it does make it a lot easier. And so I think you do find that your friendship circles start to become people who are part of the neurodiverse community.
One thing that I really want to touch on here is, particularly post-COVID, well, during COVID, one thing that happened, and what he's talking about is these communities building and so forth. Particularly, think about your Autism Speaks communities and so forth. During COVID, these people still would have been doing therapy, I'm sure. I mean, some may have slowed down, but the only people these people were really having contact with was ABA people. Now, during COVID, what happened? All of a sudden, computer sales went up. All kinds of people started going online. What happens when we go on Google? There is an algorithm. What happens when we go on TikTok, on YouTube, on Reddit, on anything that we go to, our favorite cooking magazine website, whatever, the algorithms for every single one of them are directed towards us. Here's the problem. What it does is it creates personalized cults, personalized echo chambers. And we got really used to hearing those echo chambers during COVID. And now our brains are like kind of programmed to go with those echo chambers. That's why we have these massive weird cults like what's going on with the Trumpers. I mean, I've seen like with Billy. Okay, maybe I'm back. So anyway, we have these custom designed cults that are designed for us by our own algorithms, that create our own echo chambers, where if we get together with a bunch of autism moms, and that's who we know as ABA people, we're going to go on Instagram, we're going to go on Facebook, we're going to like them, and we're going to slowly get more taken in and get spiral into a smaller and smaller echo chamber. So it's just something that I think is very important that we, like Autism Speaks, ABA, and so forth, knowing that we all are, every single one of us, kind of in our own designer echo chambers right now, at the very least.
The basis of they're the people who get it and understand.
This gift will make your wife cry.
And of course, we
it's
have
the
to have a
perfect way to show
commercial.
all your love for her.
I don't care. We don't care about your commercials. Bye-bye.
Danson ran out the door himself, which was absolutely terrifying.
It was freezing cold, no shirt on and no shoes on.
Daniel had walked at the front door.
He got away from me and he was running down the middle of First Avenue.
This is common for
and there
autistic kids.
Where I have an issue with stuff like this is that we're not looking at the positives that are in there. Now, this video is made for a purpose, and I get that.
And we're not looking at the needs of the autistic person either. I actually I swore I saw something where somebody was considering putting a chip or something in a kid, I think. Like a dog chip. I don't know if that's happened yet. I hope not.
Yes, there are challenges.
And I would rather them, if they need a chip or something, than have it on the wrist or something at this point in time. Until they turn 18 and say, I'm going to elope or whatever, and I'm going to go run off. So put a chip in me, then fine. But I don't think that should be done as a child. That
are different that come.
And the thing is it will probably happen, and it will probably save children's lives. Then what? You know. So I guess that's just different ethical questions that I shouldn't be talking about here.
So somebody who's got a neurodivergence, but a lot of the same issues carry over to neurotypical children. It's been very interesting for me having a neurodiverse child, and then having a neurotypical child.
Right.
That still we get some.
And like I said, if somebody turns 18 and they're like, yeah, put in a chip, cool. That's cool, right? Put it in my brain, make it and integrate it into one of those Elon chips or something. Connect me to the internet while you're at it. But yeah, I don't think for kids that should be an option. It's just not yet. And like I said, somebody will have a chip or something put in their kid, and it will save their life, and they'll be able to kind of poo-poo me. But well, yeah, the autism industry is like really creepy. You're right. And the thing is how easy is that to justify? If you put a chip, we've done it with animals for 20, 30 years. Why not just put a chip that they can't even feel? We used to do the Norplant in the arms that they can't even feel, don't even know is there, and then when they get lost, we know exactly where they are. In fact, while we're at it, kidnapping is really bad. So why don't we do that with all kids? And then the government can keep track of no, okay. But that's going to be the slippery slope. And if you're worried about the government keeping track of people, yes, that would be it. But I could see the justifications there, and they would be good, rational reasons. Although I'm just saying that there might be other ethical reasons why we shouldn't, and that's just something that we're going to have to go down. The problem is we need to have these discussions right now. I mean, Elon Musk has already put the first chip. He hasn't said anything about it yet, which is interesting. I think he would have been bragging about it now if it was like really doing well, Or the guy we that we put it in his brain. Now he's advanced to a new form of creature or artificial. I don't know. You'd think he'd be bragging about it, but it's been pretty quiet.
Some of the same issues, and you get other issues that come into play where you see copied behaviours. Well, if my sister can do this, why can't I? And yeah, these things are sort of, they're important messages, but this is very focused on the hardship. And for me personally, I find so much joy that comes out of being a parent to my daughter. And I found so much joy in coming to understand what autism is, what pathological demand avoidance is, what sensory processing disorder is, all these different facets to my daughter's neurodiversity.
And this guy actually, I would say, he's not like a clinician or any stuff, and he doesn't claim to be, but he is pretty darn knowledgeable on PDA. I would take his advice when it came to PDA. And what I like about him is he doesn't say that he's anything that he isn't. He's basically, I'm an autism dad, is the way he kind of sees it. But I think he has been actually diagnosed. I know he's ADHD, but I think this is 2 years ago. I think he might be diagnosed with autism now, I think.
And being able to understand her better, and I found a real richness. And in coming into the Zen community.
And this is the difference when you have a person who is speaking on behalf of his daughter. He's not speaking over me. He's not speaking for me. He's not trying to speak instead. He's just saying, look, I'm an autism dad, and this is what I've learned, and this is what I would like to share. I really, really appreciate that from this fella.
And, you get people, they welcome you with open arms, and I find so many positives from that. And so much more that I've been able to do to help support my daughter and support my family as a result of that. And there's so many positives that come with that, and I don't find that to be a negative personally.
Okay, let's talk about. Okay.
I immediately called the police.
I'm just running straight on into traffic.
Daniel wouldn't look at traffic.
Running, sprinting.
Well, to me, and I'm going to tell you a jurisdiction. I have always said, okay, redheads make up 1% of the population. Okay, now it is said by many scientists that many scientists believe that autistic people may have been around for up to 100,000 years or more. Others think that we may have autistic people before we were actually human beings. This being said, redheads have only been around for about 20,000 years, according to scientists. So autism is far more normal than redheads. We've been around for a lot longer. But we don't think of redheads as abnormal. It's just a different haircut type. Well, autism is literally a different brain type. That's literally all it is. Some people have different skin tones. We have a different brain tone. That's what it is. So it's not a disease. That's why we speak out about it not being a disease. But every time you see a redhead, you run into an autistic person. But we consider redheads to be a normal part of the population. And we should consider autistic people to be a normal population. It's a normal brain type. So that's why when there's newly diagnosed autistic people, I say just remember you are a perfectly normal autistic person. You're a perfectly normal human being.
Down to that traffic light.
He's gonna get hit by a car.
I really was sure that he would be.
That was off the cuff and on accident, but I am so totally claiming that brain tone.
By a car.
People were beeping.
My heart was racing.
I felt my life going in like slow motion.
Anything could have happened.
It's very scary. It's very, very scary.
I feel like I'm playing this game, which is life or death to me.
Now, this is a scary part of an experience that many parents to autistic kids and neurodivergent kids go through. And my daughter was a runner for quite some time, and it was terrifying. And I can relay a couple of times that my heart was in my head. She worked her way out of the house, and I turned around, she was gone. Looked around the house where she'd gone to, and then realised she was and she was halfway up the road before.
The last time I did that was after my son committed suicide. I think within the week or whatever. My mind just, I think I had some kind of break or something, but I started walking down the road and I kept on saying the same thing over and over and over, which was, this is my Cade. I had my little weeble wobble, and I was going, this is my Cade, this is my Cade, and I just took off, and where I knew it was dark, eventually my wife and my stepdaughter found me, and I was miles down the road. But my son did it once. It never did happen other than that, which was cool, but it can happen with some kids all the time. I had a little cousin, and I don't know if he was autistic or not. I know his brother was, his older brother for sure, but his mom used to have like a dog harness on him and to keep him from running off. But she had epilepsy, so she only had really not very much function of her arms, so that's how she would make sure he didn't run off.
I could do anything, and who knows what could have happened in that time had I not, or if I hadn't responded as quickly as I was able to. And she used to do that a lot, and she had no danger awareness, so she'd happily run out of the road. She had no concept of that she could get really hurt. One time she ran off, we were at a beach, and she ran off, and it was when I was far bigger and I wasn't very fit.
Oh.
And I had to chase after her, and she was just too fast. She ran miles off, and it was only that somebody managed to stop her coming the other way and brought her back to us. It couldn't have ended. It could have ended so much worse. And you do go through that range of emotions. So this is tapping in to, I think, real life experiences at this point. It's tapping into stuff that people do experience. What I'm concerned with is it's playing on fears, and this is something that I have a problem with Autism Speaks on the basis that they play on fears.
Definitely.
And they play on this,
and they've had a history of doing it, and it really isn't stopping. It's just not to the degree that it was before. But if you look at their website, it's more negative than it is positive, as far as like it's more working on fears and the negatives than really working on positives or even projecting things in a positive way.
desire for a lot of parents to have, I just want a neurotypical child. I don't want my child to have autism. I don't want my child to have any form of neurodiversity. I don't want all these things. I want my child to just be normal, and I use the inverted commas very specifically there. I feel this is tapping into that fear and discomfort and that desire for many parents that I want to fix this, I can cure this. And that's a big thing that goes along with Autism Speaks, is this desire to cure autism. It doesn't need to be cured, it can't be cured. And the methods they suggest, things like ABA therapies and stuff like that, repress those traits so deeply, and then they come out later in life in far worse ways. And if if you're a proponent for ABA and you think it's a fine thing, talk to actually autistic people who've been through it, which I've been privileged to be able to do, and find out the damage it's done. Look online, look at the reviews from people who've been ABA therapists who've left after seeing the damage it does down the track. There'll be links in the description. But yeah, it's such an important thing, and I feel this is leading into that. That's my gut feeling at the moment. That's based on my experience of Autism Speaks and my opinions that I've formed on there over time. We'll see where it goes, but I feel it's going in that direction.
First off, if you haven't made money with AI yet, don't worry. AI is the biggest wealth
No commercials
in U.S.
And very quickly, I would just love to thank Autism Speaks, my most faithful viewer.
Can't you just keep your child quiet? No.
People have no idea what it's like to
Now
have a child with...
this is the lady, she worked for Autism Speaks. This is the same commercial where she basically said she was going to drive off the bridge. I'll probably show it here. And she went on because Autism Speaks was still trying to do research for vaccinations, and she was like, no, this is BS. And so she went and started her own autism organization, some kind of autism science researcher, some whatever.
With autism.
We're just judged more harshly and more constantly and expected to do things that no human being should be expected to do.
Why is she screaming?
Why is he hitting himself?
What are you doing to her? Why are you making her cry?
And I say, well, you know, are you an expert in autism?
It's always heartbreaking. When Jody was on the swings and crying, the other moms were sort of looking and wondering why this 8.5-year-old girl was screaming and carrying on because she didn't want to get on a swing.
I would like people to second guess themselves.
Yeah.
When they look at me and they think
That's very
that A,
true.
I can't control my kid, or B,
That can I can understand.
I'm abusing.
I can understand all these things about getting looked at. The problem is the way it's being framed from Autism Speaks. That these parents are victims, and they're not taking into account that the child itself is a victim of society. And they're kind of ignoring that and glossing over that and really focusing on the parents. And the parent psyche needs to be addressed and needs to be taken care of. However, when if this is Autism Parent Speaks, not Autism Speaks, and if they and that's the problem. We have an organization that is Autism Parents and Families Speaks, not Autism Speaks. They're not speaking on our behalf. And here they're not speaking on our behalf at all. You can see the tone is not speaking on our behalf like this guy is. He's definitely speaking on our behalf. Oh, yeah, I'm sure, you know what? And maybe all autism parents need therapy. They're probably autistic. You know? No, they may not be autistic, but they could be. And there's a good chance that they could be. Definitely more so than other people.
My child because he's screaming. Have a little bit more understanding, a little bit more compassion, and show that to your children as well.
Again, this is stuff I agree with. How other people respond to us as parents when we have kids who have these additional challenges in their life.
Mm-hmm.
For my daughter, I frequently have to explain to other parents, I'm sorry, she's autistic, she has PDA, she has trouble regulating her emotions, and this is the way that she does that.
And you know what?
That doesn't mean it's acceptable.
Even my wife sometimes, if I have had public kind of meltdowns and stuff, and sometimes she'll tell people, yeah, he's just autistic, he'll be okay. You know, that's what happens.
For her to hit your child, and I will be talking to her about that now. But I do find, once I've explained that, people tend to be a lot more accepting and completely understand, and they do take away that judgment, but that initial judgment, and we go through it, and it's just so
all the
frustrating.
time, I'm sure.
When that first judgment comes in, they see you, and I think I've told the story before. I was in a car park, and the kids in this car were running riot, and you could see the mother in the passenger seat, obviously waiting for her husband to come back or her partner to come back.
Uh-huh.
And she was just struggling. She was trying her best. And there were people walking by and touching, and then one of the kids darted out of the car and actually ran in front of mine. Thankfully, I was parked. And in the end, I sort of just hopped out. I just said, let's get you back to your mum. Got him in the car, and I just said, you're doing really good. I have a child who's autistic, and I understand the difficulties and how much this can be a challenge. You're doing really good. And she burst into tears, but it was happy tears at that point. She was really thankful that she wasn't just getting judged, and I think she thought I was going to come over and give her a lecture on how to raise children and all that kind of stuff. You know, when people make those kind of efforts, and when people have come to me and said, look, I think you're doing a fantastic job, and it has happened a couple of times where the parents come to me afterwards and just said, look, seeing the way you interact with your daughter is really beautiful. Really appreciate what you're doing. And it makes all the difference in the world, and you kind of walk out with a smile on your face like, yeah, I did something good there and got that there. So yeah, you know, that's another side of it.
Why did no one tell Colorado drivers about this new rule?
We used to get that pretty common. People complimenting our entire family. Well, yeah, and you know, I talk about, and I know it sounds It sounds extraordinary and it sounds sensationalistic when I compare Autism Speaks or ABA to a cult. But I was in a religious cult, and I was in a like a pyramid scheme money cult. You know, the ones from the '90s and stuff. And I helped people escape from cults for over a decade. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Some of my people, sometimes like on YouTube, some of the people that I've known for years, they've been there. They saw it. They were with me when I was doing that. So I'm not being sensationalistic, but there are certain things, and that is like the dependency. When they use all those scare tactics and so forth, that and once they get people in to start to give them money and so forth, then they start becoming dependent, particularly the parents. But think of how resistant, like if somebody is a particular religion, Muslim, Catholic, whatever, and you try to say you're wrong, how resistant they are to that if you were to try to tell them that. Be it right or wrong. Maybe they're worshiping a rock or something. You're like, maybe that may not work. Think of how resistant people are. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I thought the U.S. was bad, but this deal with the U.K., where the U.K. said that if a person is in a car accident or something like that, and they are found to be autistic, that they are do not resuscitate, that is... it's eugenics. It's a type of eugenics. Oh yeah, that is true. You haven't heard about that. That's, and I think it's fairly recent. U.K. I'll put do not resuscitate. Okay, this is a PDF. This is the actual sheet here from NHS, whatever that is, England. This is the actual sheet. Integrated care board lead, trust and foundation, blah, 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 blah. Do not attempt CPR. And on, I don't know what this is. And people with a learning disability and or autism. I think this is like, I don't know, disabilities? Yeah, this is, somebody just turned me on to this. This is March 23rd. And I think this is why I'm going to continue. Yes, I'm trying to stay, and I've gotten off topic here. I've gotten off Autism Speaks. But after I do this 100 hours, I'm on hour 64 now. I have 100 hours, so I've only got 40 more hours. But I think I'm going to do probably a weekly daily show for at least 2 hours a day. At least an hour a day for sure. Probably 2. Just to talk about random stuff like this that comes up after I get done with this, because I'm really enjoying it, and I'm getting a lot of interaction and a lot of people bringing stuff to me. Yeah, it isn't eugenics. It's why they had a good try at making me gay. You know, they didn't even have to try to make me gay. I just like woke up gay one day, you know. I got the disease, the gay disease. No, actually, this is kind of funny. I am queer, okay? And I discovered that I was queer after I discovered I was autistic. And what it boiled down to is I went back and I was just like, my wife admitted that she was bi. And I was like, okay, why am I heterosexual? And then I was like, wait, one of them never hurt me, so what am I afraid of? And then I was like, the only reason that I had never considered it was because of religion. That was the only thing that said it was wrong or made it wrong. And then I was like, okay. And I was perfectly happy with myself after that, and just realizing that I like people. So technically, I identify as pan. I've got a lot of people that are trans or like whatever, and I don't care. I just love people, and that's what I found out. So, and I think that's pretty common with autistic people.
Educator, and here I have a child that I have no idea how to teach. Okay, come on in your seat. This morning I wanted Danson to sit with me and do a puzzle.
Please say hello so I can give you a shout out.
He could care less. You know, when he feels like
And don't
he
forget
will
to
sit
share
there
this, please.
and do that whole puzzle
Absolutely
in 30
share this
seconds,
live.
or he won't.
So this thing making puzzles, there are things my daughter will engage in that she does love and enjoy.
To sit with me and do a puzzle.
This is the thing about puzzles, and I have talked about this more than once. If nobody's around and nobody sees it, and a kid picks up a puzzle box and throws all the puzzle pieces around, and they pick it up at the end of the day and they just throw them around and make helicopters with them, and maybe I don't know, get some kind of piece of plastic and figure out how to shoot them across the room, or maybe they stack them, or maybe they put the puzzles together, like the puzzle pieces together, like where they don't fit together, and start making like Lincoln logs and stack and making buildings by actually putting the puzzle pieces together in ways that they're not really supposed to, and you make a building. What's wrong with that? In ABA, that is a behavioral problem. And children will be corrected for not putting the puzzle pieces together. You know what I used to love to do is put them together upside down with the cardboard side up, because that was a challenge to me. That's doing it wrong too. And that's exactly how it's judged in ABA, and that's what the problem with this is.
Put that in the puzzle. He could care less. You know,
yeah, you're
when
right,
he feels like
Auntie
doing
Kristen.
It
It is learning.
And do that whole puzzle in 30 seconds, or.
But you're learning wrong if you don't learn the way I force you to. Okay. Well, maybe they don't want to do the puzzle. And maybe they do have ADHD, and that just, or maybe they have PDA. Maybe it's a demand. But I played with puzzles all kinds of different ways. And I was very anal and retentive about not losing pieces, by the way. I'm autistic. Give me that. And that was not an OCD trait. It was just an autistic trait. You were supposed to have all the pieces. Not that I had to have all the pieces, because no, you're supposed to. That's why it was autistic and not OCD. With my daughter, she would just have to have all the pieces. She's autistic, but she's so OCD, she would have to have the pieces because of the numbers, or an OCD reason.
Or he won't.
So this thing making puzzles, there are things my daughter will engage in that she does love and enjoy, and there are certain things that she just won't. It's not so much of an issue with us. We don't have that complete lack of wanting to try, but it's certainly there. And when you bring it into the pathological demand avoidance side of things, that desire to just not do whatever you're being, asked of, the demand being presented.
Well, with like OCD, ADHD, it's kind of a toss-up, and I can be both very messy and very organized. I'm very organized unless I feel like I don't have control of my situation, and then I will explode. But what I'm saying is like the difference in OCD and like autism. Like, let's say it's nighttime and it's time for me to lock up the house. I have to lock up the house not because I'm OCD, but because the doors are supposed to be locked. It's the time. It isn't because they have to be locked or else I can't function. And that's the difference. I just have to do it because it's the right thing to do, or whatever. And some people might see that as paranoia. And it depends on how your psychiatrist views you and frames you on that one situation, how they might interpret why you're doing what you're doing. And I actually point that out to psychiatrists when I speak to them. I says, you may see a behavior, but it can be interpreted in many, many different ways. Maybe the person is paranoid, so they have to lock the door. Or maybe they live in a neighborhood like I do. We shall move along.
And that subconsciously triggering an avoidance, that's definitely something I have to deal with. But there's also a thing there of learning to pick your battles. So, it's a puzzle in the end.
But what do you folks say? Now, like I said, I'm totally off subject here from the Autism Speaks, but I don't know. What do you guys think about after I get done? Do you think I should continue to do a little bit of commentary and talk about things, like an hour a day or something?
And there are other ways to do things. You don't have to be so rigid and set in desire to, we must be doing this specific thing. I think one of the things that comes with parenting an autistic child over a period of time is that you learn to pick your battles, but to be flexible.
And a lot of times it would be for me out on the farm, okay, we got to move the hay over there and we got to move this pen over here. So what's the best way to do it? And then we would plan together, and I would actively engage their mind, because then they could choose. Like, we had to do the project, but when you've got a person to do it with, particularly if your PDA, is so much easier. So much easier. I think that's kind of an ADHD thing too. Running as a surgery seminar, I don't understand. Running across all, I don't know what you mean by that. No, TikTok isn't, and I'm definitely, like, right now I'm on YouTube, and I'm really going to start moving over to YouTube. I may keep doing lives here as long as I can, but I'm also simultaneously going to be doing YouTubes. And then if TikTok gets taken offline, then I will probably go to I don't know, Instagram or something else. Who knows?
Yeah, there are times that you've got to sort of knuckle down and say, I'm sorry, we have to do this now. During the lockdowns, when we had to get some schooling done, and
absolutely
we had to get them to learn in a certain
There's like people with like brains, unlike
way, and do certain things. That was something we had to do, but we had to work a way to make that manageable and work for us with our family, and we managed.
So let's get back to Autism Speaks.
There are ways around things. I think sometimes you just got to be more flexible.
But I remember that was a very scary moment for me when I realized I had sat in the car for about 15 minutes and actually contemplated putting Jody in the car and driving off the George Washington Bridge, and that would be preferable to having to put her in one of these schools. And it's only because of Lauren.
See, that's horrifying. We all have moments where we need help and we need to call out, and we can have some dark thoughts. And I'm not criticizing this woman for being in a situation where she...
It reminds me of Hermione, like when they're talking about, this could kill us, or even worse, get expelled.
Having those dark thoughts. But her daughter's going to have to watch this one day and know that that was the emotion that was put forward. What kind of guilt is that going to place on someone? How would I feel if that was me looking back at my parents doing a video 30, 40 years ago and knowing, I kind of did have to go through that.
And the thing with what you guys are talking about, the smart people here, or damaged people, there are experienced people here. A lot of very experienced people, like myself, that are multi-generational autistic, that can really, truly give good advice, who have been there, that know how to handle certain situations, know that there's like 10 different things that may apply or work for one different thing, that have that experience. But Autism Speaks is not qualifying us as being capable of doing that.
My stepmother wasn't very nurturing with me, and she was very vocal about the fact that she didn't care for me very much. And it hurts to this day. I still get nightmares about it. I occasionally wake up and I was just, something flashes back and I have to resolve that sadness and anger that's in me as a result of that. I appreciate the honesty of where this woman's at, and I think, she clearly needed help and support at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I do get concerned about this stuff being put out on, at some point her kids going, and other autistic people.
There's a big difference.
Worry, is this something I put my parents through?
She was a representative. She worked at Autism Speaks. There is a big difference in her saying that to her therapist and saying that on a commercial that's going to be aired nationwide, too. I understand venting, and she did apologize for this and say that basically she phrased it wrong. I don't know what that means.
I don't ever want my daughter to feel that. Anything I do, I want my daughter to be able to look back and understand that everything I did was because I love her. I love her from the bottom of my heart, and I will do everything I can.
Yeah, I actually was put in a mental hospital in the state hospital of Colorado in my 30s, and they didn't know I was autistic, and they never figured it out. They never interviewed me really or anything. They just chemically restrained me while I was in there. I had a massive meltdown and basically was in autistic burnout and depression. They caught on to the depression part, but that was it.
And to support her. And I will work with the challenges, and I'll be honest about the frustrations, but not to the point that she needs to feel guilt about that. I really worry about this kind of stuff being put in.
Matthias was 4 months old when Christian was diagnosed. It just took a lot of the naturalness, the joy of having a baby out of the equation because we were always filled with fear.
Bye. 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 And I have Lauren, whose babyhood I missed because she was 2 months old when Jody was diagnosed.
I see Pooh Bear's house. What do you see, Jody?
And so the first 2 years of Lauren's life are a complete blur.
He wants to fix Christian, and he makes a big show about examining people.
I don't want anybody to make fun of her.
It's sad. I forget sometimes that he lost Christian too.
I wish I had a sister
He lost Christian too.
without autism.
See, that guts me. I hate hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
And
see, and the thing is this. If I was the parent there, I would say, but then your sister wouldn't be your sister. You wouldn't have your sister anymore. Right? They'd be somebody else. I mean, you could love them, but then you wouldn't have your sister. That kind of thing. I wouldn't yell at her, but I would present it in such a way as to encourage her to look at her sister in a different way. And the reason she's got that negative attitude is, well, her mom just said she was going to drive off a bridge.
Losing it's just so inaccurate.
I am so lost at what you guys are talking about.
Okay, I have a neurotypical son who is 5 years younger than my daughter. And my daughter takes up a lot of focus, a lot of the time, because we're having to deal with behaviours. And interestingly, I had a conversation with my son the other day where he specifically talked about, he actually asked me, do you think life is hard, easy, or medium? And I said, well, it depends on the day and it depends on the time and what we're going through. Sometimes life's a breeze. Other times life can be really challenging. And he said, I mean, he's not even 6 yet, he's 6 next week. And he was saying to me, but I feel like Sienna's autism, I feel like my sister's autism makes my life hard. And we talked about it a bit. And I said, it's not something she's picked. It's something she can't help. It's not something that she was born with it. And his response was, so she was born with being...
See, this guy's pretty darn empathetic. And I really do think that it feels like he's speaking on my behalf, not about me, not for me.
Autistic. And I said, well, yes. And his response then was so she was born knowing every swear word, because that's how he associates. Is the language that comes along from
it's her brain tone. Yes, it's her brain
very
tone.
fruity language over time, and he was associating those together. And there's a part of me that thinks, wouldn't it be so much nicer if he didn't have to deal with the stuff? But I will say this: my son's a remarkably accepting and loving kid, and he will accept anybody, and it's because he's had to grow up seeing the challenges that my daughter has, and he's had to adapt, and it's made him a better and more rounded.
Auntie Kristen, I think you're right. I think I should keep that one up, the brain tone. I think that's a good way of putting it. I think you're absolutely right. I may not have caught it, but I think you're right.
Human being, and what we don't do is allow for any moment him to feel that he's less important, and it can be a challenge. And there are times that we have to focus on my daughter because that's the important part. We have to be able to, deal with the situation as it's presented. But we make a point to make sure he knows how valued he is.
Isn't that cool? This guy seems so balanced.
Yeah, I really struggle with this. And for that kid to then come out saying, I wish, I wish I had a sibling without autism. It makes me really sad.
That's gut-wrenching.
I think that's probably a natural thing to think at times, But
probably.
I think there's a way to come out and say these things, and then we can back it up. Well,
And it's okay for people at times to have those kinds of feelings or to have intrusive thoughts or whatever. And that's why I really wouldn't yell at her, but that's why I would focus on, but that's your sister. We don't want to lose our sister. Yeah, he really does. And like I said, I love his tone. His tone is speaking on behalf. He's like, okay, this is how and he's talking about how he cares about his kids and how the perspective of his kids. He's really concerned about that. Yes, he's concerned about him sometimes and the parents and so forth, but he's really concerned about the kid in that perspective. And that's why I say that I really appreciate that he's speaking on behalf, not for, or definitely not like Autism Speaks instead. I'd love to shake this guy's hand, give him a hug.
Would be easier, but there's so much.
I would give this guy a fair and square autistic freaking bear hug guy. Yeah, that's what I do.
Brings to our lives that's just a complete misrepresentation. It makes me really angry to hear that.
When you have a child with autism, I think the rate for divorce is like 80%.
Mm-hmm. Having a child who needs what Danson needs made it really difficult for me to balance my life.
And that's one thing too. Have you noticed that in the Autism Mom ABA community, Autism Speaks community, there's a certain kind of language, and then there's a certain kind of language in the actually autistic community. For example, if someone says, I didn't know that my kiddo was with autism, or I didn't know that my kiddo had autism. You know immediately what community they come from.
And be a mother and have a job and be a wife. I didn't give that marriage what I could have because I had nothing left to give.
You're right.
We never have any time to be together. It's always one of us with Jody.
It was just an angry time where I think both felt so helpless and did not know what to do and really sort of turned on each other.
When I hear that about divorce rates, it makes me really sad. And that's...
I wouldn't be surprised if Autism Speaks, if there was an increased divorce rate. Yeah. There can be increased stressors and so forth. Could be. Absolutely. And that is a very sad thing.
It's not to judge anybody and your situation and
I agree.
What you go through, but we made a really conscious decision that we would have to work harder with each other as a husband and wife in order to get through the challenges that we faced. And there were times it was dire, but we made that choice. Now, I'm not judging anybody who hasn't been able to make that choice. But again, someone's child's going to look back at that and say, so I caused my parents to split up.
How to open your car door while submerged underwater.
Absolutely.
A fatal construction flaw in all recent autumn.
And, okay, sad history facts. The reason in the United States that we have marriage licenses, in the United States specifically, and specifically why they were made in the South, was so that they could ensure that there were not any so-called mixed couples, and we'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Forever. Nothing can happen to me.
I can never die.
I don't think there's a day that doesn't go by where I don't think about, oh, what happens when I'm not here? Who's going to take care of Daniel?
I'm panicking because I didn't write an update.
That is a repeated theme that that I have noticed, is what are they going to do when I get here? And actually, that's a legitimate thought, and that's a legitimate concern. And I would expect any parent to think that. Any parent, no matter who it is. That's important. And I don't care how old your kid is.
List of what to do in case something happens to me. I've got to write who's in charge of his program, what doctors he goes to, what vitamins and supplements he needs, and what.
And I would hope that you would do that same thing for your neurotypical kid. I know I did. And I know my ex-wife did. We had all that stuff. It was all done.
What the plan is, because it's all up to me.
That's parenting. That's planning ahead.
See, again, I find this...
But when you frame it, because my kid is autistic, I have to get wills and so forth together, then that's the problem.
Tapping into those emotions that we all have. And it is very real, you know. What happens if I'm out of the picture? If something were to happen to me, my family's in real stress, real dire straits. There's nothing that, you know, it's a real fear, and this is tapping into that fear of what's coming, what's next for our kids, what happens when I'm not around, how are they going to be afterwards. Yeah, I think the best way I can describe this, I feel very emotionally manipulated, but it's also a very real part of being a parent to an autistic child, or to, you know, I think it could be a part of being a parent to any child. Who doesn't worry about what's going to happen if I'm not here for my kids? I think that's a very natural part. It's amplified. I think it's strong.
This dude is down to earth, right? He's down to earth, and he's also considering the points that may be counter to what he's thinking and so forth, and he even addresses those things. If this guy ain't autistic, I should so not say that. Okay, that was a compliment. I love his reasoning and so forth. So that was a compliment, and that does not mean he's autistic.
Only amplified when you have,
although it wouldn't surprise me.
have to experience it as a parent, as a send parent, as a, you know, when that,
people are going to get so mad at me. Oh my God, you said he was autistic.
You know your kids have these extra challenges, but for me, I think it's a part of parenting in general.
You first get diagnosed, and you say to yourself, you know, I'm going to do a year of really hard work, and he's going to be fine. He's going to be better. And then the year comes by, and you're like, okay, maybe like 2 years, and then maybe like 3 years, and then you realize, okay, so basically this is lifelong.
I'm really surprised to hear that, and I'm actually encouraged to hear that. This is lifelong. And the support that we need to give our kids.
What? This is a lifelong contract? Why didn't they tell me? I have to have this brain the whole time? That's not fair.
What their diversity is, what their neurotype is lifelong. That's the commitment you make as a parent. But I, you know, this is lifelong. And I was surprised to hear that in this, and I'm actually really impressed to hear that.
I imagined Little League and trips and vacations and girlfriends, and it's taken me a very long time to let those dreams go.
Christian's Day.
Oh, no. That did not say what I thought it said. I heard it wrong.
Like 2 years. And
I
then
heard
maybe
it wrong.
like 3 years. And then you realize, okay, so basically this is lifelong.
I'm really surprised to hear that.
Come on.
I'm actually encouraged to hear that. This is lifelong. And the support that we give our kids, no matter the commitment you make as a parent.
What's a compliment? What is a compliment? I forgot what I said.
Lifelong. And
Or what
I'm
you
surprised
said.
to hear that in this, and I'm actually really impressed to hear that.
I imagined Little League and trips and vacations and girlfriends, and it's taken me a very long time to let those dreams go.
That's called parenting. That's called parenting. And if you frame it in the fact that I have to let stuff go, that's a problem. Instead of framing, holy crap, I got a kid here, and we get to like do all kinds of stuff. I get to watch this kid grow. I get to help this kid. This is amazing. That's not a sacrifice. That's freaking amazing. And then we got a big cat.
Christian's a human being who's fighting so hard, like you can't believe. And what's been taken from him is... it's indescribable.
Jackson is never going to get married and never going to have kids. When I'm at somebody else's wedding and they're dancing with their mother, what I would do to dance with Jackson.
See, I have a real problem with this too. This is really welling up some emotions in me. What's been taken, and I think we all go through that feeling sometimes as a parent. I certainly went through it. You know, what things is my daughter not going to be able to experience?
And the thing is I was 50 and my kid, like my son was 22. My daughter is, 23? I never experienced any of that. I realized that my kids were autistic, but they were pretty much grown by then.
That other kids are.
Yes, all neurotypical get married and with a boy and a girl, and they all go to church together, and they're not like us peoples.
It taps into that fear. It taps into that emotion. But again,
that was so horrible. I mean, I know somebody's gonna record this stuff or whatever and make a TikTok video, and it's gonna be so hateful or whatever, and it's gonna be like stuff I actually did say. I was like, but I didn't mean it really.
with time and with seeing, my daughter's got so many more opportunities that open up as a result of this as well. And I think we forget how much of the world has changed because of autistic people. The Elon Musks of the world, the Teslas of the world, the Albert Einsteins, the Jerry Seinfelds, the brilliant comedians. These people are there in the world, and they've made such a difference to people's lives purely because they see the world in a
Don't
different
forget
way.
to share the live. I really
don't
would
think
appreciate that.
Something gets taken away without something else being given back, and I do really believe that. And you get stuck in. I think you go through a mourning cycle. I spoke about it in the video I did for the PDA summit, where I went through I basically went through.
I went through a mourning cycle for myself because it was like, damn, if I would have known, and maybe I could have stopped people from treating me like they did. And then kind of being concerned about my kids and that they didn't go through the hard times that I have gone through. Not that they were autistic. I never had a problem with that, or was even upset about that. I just was really concerned about, how people would treat them and so forth.
Through the stages of grief, and I realised that afterwards. But the point is that you come to that point of acceptance. Once you reach that point of acceptance, it opens up another door to opportunity and to this whole new amazing world that is there and ready to be tapped into.
And when I talk about acceptance, what I say is this. Accepting that I was autistic, that was almost immediate. But what was important was me giving myself permission to be an autistic person, to be goofy, for whatever, if you want to call it goofy, to be me. Permission to be me, whatever that is, instead of having to mask. So I'm not just accepting that I was autistic, but being okay with it.
And I think that's really important to remember.
He is trying so hard to stay in himself, and I'm trying so hard to pull him out all the time.
Look up.
I don't try to not mask. I just try to, I just try not to care and be me, if that makes sense. Like, I just try not to care about what I'm doing. As long as I'm not hurting anyone's feelings or anything like that, I just try to just say to heck with it. That's where screw them that parter came from. It's just, be you. It's okay to be you. It's okay to be me. And if they don't like it too dang bad.
Let me see your face. Okay.
I think that they have.
And I know that's a great thing to say, but we can't always be that way, like at work or whatever. And, if we're trying to get a house loan or whatever and we're in there stimming and acting weird, we may not get the loan. But for the most part, yeah.
Have this misconception that all our kids are just mentally retarded and that's it, and what can you do, what can be done, and we want to change that.
I know that
I just have
science
to
is
be
making great
polite.
breakthroughs, and my hope is that by the time Lauren's ready to have a baby, we'll have a cure, or we'll understand how to prevent autism.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, this is from the, I think this was 2011 or something, I'm not sure. But we'll have a cure. Now, this lady right here literally worked for Autism Speaks when this was made. So they were still using cure language. And here's the evidence right here. Like I said, I don't remember which year. This is not I Am Autism. I can't remember what this one's called.
I'm never going to say, I quit. It's not really my vocabulary. I assume it's not in a lot of autistic parents' vocabulary.
I just cannot accept we have to throw away this generation of children. No way.
If you don't think positively, you won't make it through the day. Danson is my greatest teacher, and I know that, and he teaches me something every single day. When I see him do something that we've worked so hard on and he's worked so hard on, it gives me hope that he'll get there. It's just going to take a long time.
He's very, very loving to me.
Say, I love you, Mommy.
I love you, Mommy.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
And there we have it. There we have the Autism Speaks mantra. I want a cure. I want, prevention for autism. This isn't something that needs to be cured. It's not something that should be cured. Autism is just a different way of approaching the world. What needs to change is the attitudes that go around it and the attitudes from other people. I'm sorry, this is really riling me up. You can't cure autism, and it doesn't need to be cured. What you need to do is understand autism, understand autistic people, and start making the world adjusted to accept them and to accommodate them and to make them a valued part of society.
I absolutely
Not to
agree.
say that you are a disease that needs to be eradicated. It's so wrong, and it is exactly why I really, really hate Autism Speaks on this basis. I hate that that's the point. That's their goal. There's no... I'm lost for words. It makes me so angry.
Now, right now, they say that, that they are not trying to get a cure. That they're not, but they still are funding all that research that nobody will ever be able to track. Right here, millions and millions and millions of dollars. And when the starting point was genocide. They're doing science to make sure that no autistic person can be born. So no one with my brain type or brain tone can be born. Just like having different color hairs, we have different color brains. We have different color brains. Mine's kind of green and rotting right now, evidently. But we got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars here. This is their $990 from 2023. Being dedicated to science. This organization has dropped the ball and will never ever be trusted with any kind of science grants or whatever. So the best thing that they could possibly do is just stop doing that research, which they won't do. And this is going to show you their motivations, their true motivations, because I'm making this very clear, and I know they listen to me. They need to stop doing all science funding, all grants going to science, and repurpose that to go directly to actually autistic people. Maybe people need a ride to go get their driver's license. Little things like that. Maybe they need, maybe if an autistic family needs help getting their first month's rent. Maybe an autistic family is in some kind of weird situation between countries or something like that and can't pay certain medical bills. There's all kinds of circumstances. Maybe somebody needs a bicycle so they can go to work. There's so many things that we could make a direct impact on autistic people's lives. That's $39 million. Millions and millions of dollars going to science research that autistic people don't want, because no matter what, that technology, even if it's not now, it will be applied to eugenics. Period. We know this is going to happen. We know this debate is coming. We don't know where it's going to happen, in what countries or whatever, but there are going to be places where that science for early detection and early intervention will be used for eugenics, for sterilizations or whatever. Guarantee you. If it isn't going to apply to autistic people, it will apply to people with CP or whatever. And we don't want that. So Autism Speaks, their best goal, their best thing that they could possibly do is just stop giving that money to any kind of science thing and give it directly to actually autistic people. Now, right now, with this music, the uppity music and stuff, now they're going to start fading in, like they're fading this picture out. You're going to see the puzzle piece or something. Some way to accredit hope to Autism Speaks. Watch. I have not seen this full commercial, by the way. I've only seen bits and pieces. This is the first time I've ever seen it in full.
How to store and sort all your photos and videos in seconds. No computer knowledge required. This tiny...
So that was my reaction as I watched the video from Autism Speaks. And I think at the end there you could clearly see where my emotions were going with it. I despise this perception that we need or should have or can have a cure for autism. It doesn't need to be cured. It doesn't need to be, eradicated. I always go back to the first X-Men film. Now, I loved this film. And what I really liked was that, to me, it's the perfect metaphor for kind of where we're at with, autism acceptance in the world. There are these people that we don't quite understand, and it poses this unspoken threat almost. Mm-hmm. And it might be a threat to our lifestyle. Maybe we need to put in more effort as parents and stuff like that. And
people fear the unknown. People have always feared the unknown. That's why we have prejudice and so forth. When there are cultures, even slightly different cultures, in a neighborhood, there tend to be clashes. Usually not. I've never seen a clash or a fight due to a huge understanding. It's usually due to a big misunderstanding, and because our brains work differently, neurotypical holistic people will never be able to understand how our brains work, and vice versa. literally we can understand technically, that they enjoy social stuff, that they communicate via emotions and generalizations rather than specific ideas and concepts, that they speak in gist rather than in specifics. We can understand those things, but we'll never be able to place ourselves in those holistic brains. Hopefully. And they'll never be able to do the same for us. And that's why we can communicate very well together as autistics, and they can communicate very well together because they have like minds and we have like minds. So we've always got to take that into consideration. Always understand that no matter what, no matter how much they try, they're never going to understand us completely. Because it's just not possible, because their brains work differently. I've never worked with an Apple or a Mac. I have no idea how those things work. None whatsoever. I mean, I could, but no matter what, I'm always going to be more comfortable with the Windows system because I've just worked with those all my life.
There are times it's really, really hard.
Well, Ninja, I level it can be in a sense, but I don't want to say that as if we're above anyone or else. It's a different type of consciousness, I would say. Before I discovered I was autistic, I always said I think differently. And I agree with the fact that our brains are wired differently. And I think that is an excellent way of putting it. I think if we say different level, even though I kind of understand what you're saying, then it may be misconstrued as we think we're better or whatever than somebody else. And I know that's not what you're saying.
To, be a parent to an autistic child. There are times when I've got my daughter in a restraint to stop her from hurting other people, my soul dies inside. I've talked about it before and I'll mention it again, I'm sure many times. It crushes me because I know she hates it. What I will never do
This guy is so down to earth.
Interfere with her when it's just something she's doing that doesn't matter. If she's stimming, she plays with her hair, she does stim, we talked about it in previous episodes. If she's stimming, I'm not going to stop her doing that. That's just her way of regulation.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I listen to music. I actually do stim, I shake my foot, I've talked about it before, my wife hates it. But it's just me, that's just something I do. It's a more socially acceptable stim. Nobody really pays attention to it other than, can you stop doing that? No.
I shake my foot and it's so violent that people notice.
Sorry, it's completely subconscious.
My wife will stop me at restaurants, and it's a good thing because it gets pretty violent.
But I stim. I need to do that kind of stuff. That's something that I have to go through. My daughter has to stim. She needs that. She needs that self-regulation. And if that stimming is going to help her not reach that peak in her anxiety that she's going to melt down, then I say, giddy up, go ahead, stim as much as you like because it's helping you. And I don't care if other people don't understand it. That's something she needs. There's this perception, and it really displays in that video, that this is just a burden.
Right, and they are still kind of projecting that, not necessarily the burden, but if you go to the website, there is definitely a tone, and it is, we're speaking instead of autistic people, and it never qualifies autistic people as being knowledgeable or having any authority over our own condition. It's always go to Autism Speaks. Never ever trust an autistic person. We're never qualified, or even addressed in a lot of times. Now there are a few tiny places where they say this is for young autistic adults or whatever, and they give a little PDF that is not particularly helpful. And maybe, you know what? Maybe we should go into that next after this.
There is so much joy that my daughter brings me.
Is there anything about Autism Speaks in particular that you guys want me to talk about? Because there's the lobbying, there's the finances, there's the bonuses, there's so much stuff to talk about.
There's so much love that my daughter brings me, and I wouldn't change her for the world. What I would do is try and address some of the negatives that do come along with it. She lives with high...
Yes, autistic people do have autistic or holistic people who are not autistic do have radar, And unfortunately, when I was a child, I began to hate my mother because of that radar. She was very obviously autistic. When we walked into a 7-Eleven, every head turned. I don't know why, but what it was, and the looks I got when I was 5, 6 years old, like the looks of pity and crap like that, I began to resent my mother. I didn't know that she was autistic or I was autistic. I just remember all these people looking at me, and the thing is she was always nervous, always shaking, and always bringing attention to us, and I hated that attention, and I eventually projected that onto my mother itself and began to resent her for being autistic. So there's my ableist confession of the day. I was so ableist that I kind of hated my mother, and I'm very much ashamed of that. I wish that hadn't happened, but it is what it is. I think she would forgive me, and if the time came and she could give me a hug, I think she would.
My anxiety, and if there's a way,
I know she would. She was a very loving person.
That I can help her manage that anxiety and not feel that anxiety as much, I would do it.
In fact, the only person that I know, I married Mommy actually. There's nothing in common between those two women except for this one fact. My mother would give to a fault. If she only had one car and she realized that somebody needed a car to go to work, she would very likely give it to them. And I am very serious. And my wife is very, very close. Of just wonderful, wonderful, loving people. I think this guy has that same kind of heart. He really does strike me as just being one of those people that just is just
not at the risk of
really
changing who she is at heart, because she's a beautiful, caring, and loving kid. The world wants autism to be cured in a way, the neurotypical world, and this is where I've spoken about this before. There's this divide between neurotypical and neurodiverse people, and it comes from things like this. It comes from this feeling that I'm not welcome in this world, and so all neurotypicals get lumped in the one basket in the same way that we do to the neurodiverse people. It's all lumped in one basket, too difficult to deal with, off you go. What needs to change is simply an attitude in the world that says that we are rating people on their value in this world. There is so much value to be brought from autistic people, and we, like I said in that thing, we wouldn't have so many of the amazing people we have in the world.
This guy is so cool because he is really, truly speaking on our behalf. I have not felt belittled or infantilized or anything. If anything, just empowered knowing that this guy is on my side.
So many of the amazing breakthroughs that we've had in this world without autistic people. And, for me,
I feel valued by this guy.
So as a neurotypical person, to anyone who is neurodiverse and watching this, I'm with you. And I
think he is ADHD. I think he said he was. I'm not saying that I think he said he's ADHD at least. He might be autistic. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure he said he's ADHD.
To be the maker of that bridge, if you like, or I want to be somebody who's helping to make that bridge. And let's meet halfway on it. And
So yeah, please let me know what you want me to talk about concerning Autism Speaks, or if you want me to surprise you, or what.
And let's work out how we can make this a better world for everybody. This is why people hate the autistic people hate the puzzle piece. It's why people hate Autism Speaks. That's the message that's being spoken. This needs to be cured. This needs to be reduced. It needs to be controlled, and that's wrong. And going back to this X-Men example, you had this whole thing.
Now this is from 2021, and the tone of the site is still the same.
When you watch the film, you're on the side of the mutants. You're there, like, they're just there's this fantastic scene in there. I've used it before in a video, and the mutants are talking to this new mutant's parents and saying, hey, he's a mutant. He's got this power, and the mother's there going, well, can't you just not be a mutant?
Have you tried not being a mutant?
Of course you can't. That's who you are. Autistic people, that's who they are. This is why identity first language is so important for a lot of autistic people. Autism
is this guy not cool?
Who they are. It is how they identify. And it's a beautiful
What would happen if this guy was CEO of Autism Speaks and he was talking like this at the board meetings and stuff, man, I would be like, dude.
Everything, and it doesn't need to be stomped out. This video makes me so angry because it is purveying this misinformation that life as a parent to an autistic child, as a SEND parent.
Yeah, I had a friend that made a video about being autistic. He came out as autistic, and he was like, I do this, and like right now there's this little speck. I know there's a little crack thing on my lens, and that's a really expensive lens, and that's just bothering me. And he's just going on and on and on, and he goes on for like 15 minutes. And I'm like, man, when's he going to start talking about this autistic stuff? And he started closing the video, and then I was like, oh. And it just dawned on me all at once. I was like, oh. Later on, about a year later, I went back, and there were 32 consecutive things that he mentioned. Now, it wasn't exactly, but I could identify with the trait, and that's what was so amazing.
It's just full of hardship. Yes, it's hard. I'll testify firsthand. It is damn hard. And there are times where I feel like giving up and throwing in the towel. But
you know what? He's saying, yeah, it can be hard, but he is not going for the pity party at all. I love this guy.
I know that,
and it's realistic.
The same with me. When I was a kid, I'm neurotypical, but I had issues, and there are times they were just like, oh, this is going to blow my head in a minute, and I can't deal with it. You know, this isn't. It's not something exclusive to the realm of SEND parenting. It is.
Ninja, have you taken any of the tests online or whatever, the autism type things?
Amplified when you're a SEND parent, and it is amplified. And there are days where I just want to pack up and move to Mars, and you know. But they're not. That's not every day, and I wouldn't trade those days for the days that are amazing with my daughter.
Okay, we're not going to talk about Autism Speaks anymore. We're going to go to. Okay. So online, there's a bunch of tests, and what it is a lot of times, like I think there's like scored out of 50, and they're scored really weird. Like if you get an 18 out of 50, they say you might be on the spectrum. Some of them say that, and when you get like a 47, or you know something extremely high, and the average person gets like 14 or 13 or 12 or whatever. Okay, but yeah, I definitely will. I would. And what I would do is I would take one. This is kind of what we did. And my son did this with the Briggs, Braxton Hicks, not Braxton Hicks. What do you call them? The personality test things. Like I took one and then I took another one from another test like 6 months later. And they both said that I was INFP. And then, like, I did it another year later when I kind of forgotten about it, and it said I was an INFP. Then I found out, or INFJ, excuse me. All of them said that we were both INFJs, which is kind of unusual. And then I got diagnosed as autistic, and then basically I diagnosed my son. And yes, I diagnosed my son. I'm waiting for somebody to go, you can't do that. You can't do that. Somebody go, you can't do that. Okay, here we go. Your favorite and mine. Now, the revelations here are freaking amazing. You know, a lot of them, it's INFP, INFJ, and then there's another one. And a lot of autistic people who get it, but if you look at the whatever it's called, Brig Hex, whatever it's called, I would expect that when you look at those traits. You would expect that because that kind of leans towards the autistic side, you know. But you can also be an extroverted autistic, and they say that test doesn't mean diddly squat, but I have found certain consistencies when I take it.
Autism Speaks, so, thank you so much for joining.
I would say at the very least it's a broad indicator, or at least something to kind of give you something to think about. But check this out. This is amazing. This is Susan right now. She has since passed. This is 13 years ago. So okay. And this is Bob Wright, her husband. These are two co-founders and some lady that's interviewing them, first of all, what we need to look at is the pious perspective from which we are coming from. These people are speaking flat out, not for, not over, but instead of autistic people. And it's always me, Autism Speaks. Now remember, these are the co-founders of Autism Speaks, speaking for Autism Speaks in the name of Autism Speaks. This is not their opinions. This is Autism Speaks. So check this out. I'm going to go up here a little bit because it gets pretty amazing pretty quick.
He knew nothing about it when he was diagnosed, so we decided to make it our mission to find out what was causing this epidemic.
Oh, what?
When he was initially diagnosed, he knew nothing about it when he was diagnosed, so we decided to make it our mission to find out what was causing this epidemic.
Epidemic. She characterized it as an epidemic. Now, I did look up the word epidemic, and it can mean something is not always a disease necessarily. So technically she's in the right. Now, this says a widespread occurrence of infectious disease in a community at a particular time. When you go to like this one, Merriam-Webster, it says affecting or tending to affect a disproportionately large number of individuals, which is wrong, or less than 1%, within a population, community, or region at the same time. This is fear-mongering, is what this is. Characterized by a very widespread growth, extent of relating to constituting an epidemic. That's Merriam-Webster dictionary says an epidemical of a disease affecting many persons at the same time. So part of the time at least, a temporary prevalence of a disease. So far half of the time is referring directly to a disease, half the time not. So technically, we could give her credit and say that she is using the word properly and that she is not inferring that it is a disease. However, I would say most people probably would, or at least a lot of people, at least the people who write dictionaries, think of it as a disease when you say epidemic. So you could say that she could be categorizing autism as a disease. And now remember, when we use terms with autism, that also does, instead of autistic people, that's also indicating a disease. And when we can compare it to cancer, like he's about to, that definitely is comparing it to a disease.
It was 1 in 166, and here we knew nothing about it when he was diagnosed, so we decided to make it our mission to find out what was causing this epidemic.
When he was initially diagnosed, did you find it was hard to find the resources that you and your family needed for your grandson?
Well, it was very difficult. It was so thin. I've often said it was like AIDS. When AIDS came along.
Check out the words. Now he's mentioning AIDS. It's like AIDS. Autism is like AIDS. This is the founders of Autism Speaks. This is the starting point. This is what we need to understand. No, thank you. I don't want to attend Norwich Crown Court. Thank you very much, Tom.
Said it was like AIDS. When AIDS came along, nobody knew about it. They knew it was, oh my gosh, it's going to be a terrible thing, but no data. There was very, very little data on this. And therapy was, we were told even at Columbia, goodbye and good luck.
Is that kind of like being introduced to being invited to dinner by the Vlad the Impaler? Is that kind of what that is?
There are a lot of therapists out there. We don't actually know them personally, but I'm sure you can find them. And that was it. That was the kind of the routine.
It was the most discriminated group of people I've ever come
now,
across.
Now, get
why do
this.
You think that is?
Well,
this is so important. She's going to start talking about the most discriminated people that she has ever come across. Okay? Listen carefully here.
And that was it. That was the kind of the routine.
It was the most discriminated group of people I've ever come across.
And why do you think that is?
Well, because they had no power. They had
Who's she talking about? Who's she talking about?
They were so inundated with the autistic child. They had no insurance.
The parents. The parents is who she was talking about there. Listen to this. And this is still their attitude, and still the way the website is written from a perspective of the parents.
Know them personally, but I'm sure you can find them. And that was it. That was the kind of the routine.
It was the most discriminated group of people I've ever come across.
And why do you think that is?
Well, because they had no power. They were so inundated with the autistic child.
Well, the first time I heard that, I thought they were talking about autistic people. Oh, they had no power.
They had no insurance. Medical coverage wouldn't cover them. The schools gave them a hard time. It was absolutely amazing. They were busted.
This is all. They were busted. They were broke.
No voice in this community.
They aren't talking about autistic people. She's talking about autism parents. And that may all be true, don't get me wrong. But this place, this organization is called Autism Speaks, not Autism Parent Speaks. If it was called Autism Parent Speaks and Family Member Speaks, then that would be cool. Because that would be that demographic. But this is called Autism Speaks and says that it speaks for autistic people. It literally says it speaks for autistic people. But here she is speaking instead of autistic people. These are the leaders of Autism Speaks, multimillionaires, and they couldn't have had an autistic person with them? Not one?
And now Autism Speaks has given them a very, very loud voice.
Well, speaking of a loud voice.
Who did they give a voice? Who did Autism Speaks give a voice? Parents. That's what she's bragging about. She's not bragging. She literally is not saying anything about giving autistic people a voice. Listen, she's still bragging about the parents.
Speaks has given them a very, very loud voice.
Well, speaking of a loud voice, let's talk about Light It Up
Light
Blue.
It Up Blue. We started this campaign last year with 200 buildings around the world. This year we're coming up on 1,000. I mean, we have...
Now, this is where it gets interesting about the puzzle piece here. Eileen Lamb, token, our token autistic person, Token said that Autism Speaks, they didn't choose blue because of boys, that it's a misconception that it was because they believe only boys get autism. Only boys get autism. She reframed it a little bit, but she was basically saying it wasn't because of boys. Okay?
Christ the Redeemer, that statue in Rio, overlooking all of Rio, that's going to go blue. The Sydney Opera House, as you saw, the Empire State Building, the entire country of Bangladesh, I mean, the CN Tower in Toronto. We decided to go blue because this is our color, because it's 4-to-1 boys to girls, and that we wanted to shine a bright spotlight around the globe about this global public health crisis.
It must feel really great from just a few years ago to feel like that this has really turned into a global initiative.
Well, it's an effort. You're trying to get traction. Awareness. You have to have awareness. That leads to.
Do you see the framing from the autistic person? Well, the thing is this. Oh, I know exactly why they occupy the momentum. Think of this. And they have successfully done this. Whenever anyone thinks of autism, the first organization that comes to mind, I don't care if you're in the UK or in Australia or Canada, the first organization that comes to mind is Autism Speaks. He right here, by neglecting qualifying autistic people, he's going to sit here and talk about how he's gone to Congress, how he's making laws, how he's making a difference, and how important it is that he does this so that the only option is just like God in a cult. God always gets the credit. You always give to God. You always give God the credit. You always give Autism Speaks the credit. And you will see her, she will literally say this. Actually, I think she already has.
Science and research leads to political involvement, and you need that to get the science and the research done, funding. So it's been a real effort. Suzanne actually came up with this idea for Light Up the Blue.
Most autistic people are not do not have a God, so to speak, are atheist.
And this only started last year, and
we're 3 times more likely to be atheist, and I think 3 to 5 times more likely to be queer.
It's caught on dramatically, and with people that are involved with autism all over the world, not the people we know or deal with, but they've taken it on themselves to activate in their countries, and this is remarkable.
And it's given a lot of the families globally hope that there is hope, that people are looking out for their autistic families. Finally, somebody's talking about it. We're on our way to the Intrepid now.
Okay, that's getting a little bit
in their countries, and this is remarkable.
And it's given a lot of the families globally hope that there is hope, that people.
Who's giving them hope?
And it's given a lot of the families globally hope that there is hope, that people are looking out for their autistic families. Finally, somebody's talking about it. We're on our way to the Intrepid now, which is going to light up blue, with a lot of the schools.
See how they kind of make it want to go towards. They started up the World Autism Awareness because they went straight to the UN. And when you have millions and millions of dollars to spend, you can afford to go on your expense account to the UN. I can't speak for, and they didn't bring any autistic people or ask me if I wanted to go, or anybody from the actually autistic community
that have children.
No, they
autism,
went instead
to give them all hope and have a day of celebration that we have lit up the world for their cause.
See, a day of celebration that we have lit up the world for their cause. That is literally what she said. It's all about Autism Speaks. A day of celebration that we have lit up the world for their cause.
That we have lit up the world for their cause.
A day of celebration that we have lit up the world for their cause.
And have a day of celebration that we have lit up the world for their cause.
What is the next challenge that you all want to tackle?
Did I hear that wrong like all 7 times? Okay, what's the next challenge we ought to tackle? We should have organizations like Autism Speaks qualify the autistic community as the authorities on autism, and recognize that autistic people tend to have hyperfixations, and particularly the people that are going to be particularly involved in the autistic community are going to have a lot of background knowledge in autism. They're going to have intergenerational experience. For example, my grandmother was probably autistic. My mother was definitely autistic. I'm autistic. My children are autistic. I may have one autistic grandchild. When the people are still alive today, you're still talking about 150 years of history or something of experience with autism. So we're going to qualify autistic people as being experts in autism. I think that's what she's going to say. That's what she's definitely going to say about autism, right? Right? Right. And by the way, thank you. And please share this or whatever. Let people know about this live stream. I really would like to get as many people on here and get as much feedback as possible. But more than anything, I would really like to thank Autism Speaks, my most faithful viewer. Thank you so much, Autism Speaks.
Next challenge that you all want to tackle for Autism Speaks?
Well, we have to get the Combating Autism Act, which was passed in 2006, reauthorized. That would normally not be an issue, but in Congress today, getting anything done with all the delays and everything, this is critical because this bill will expire in September, and it needs to be redone, and it needs to be a better bill. So this is a real challenge. This is a $1 billion bill over 5 years, so this has to get done. Secondly, we need translational medicines. You need to take the science and translate.
What's a translational medicine?
It into practical therapies or drugs that can be used, and this is a whole separate issue. The NIH gives you the basic science, but
used for what?
You have to get either drug companies or private groups to translate it, and that's a real issue. Even adults with autism, you don't die from autism, so you can.
This is the best. This is the best. There is no way in hell they can't say that they didn't think this was a disease. Listen to this very carefully. Do not go away. Listen to this sentence.
Even adults with autism, you don't die from autism, so you can have it your whole lifetime. But adults,
you can have it your whole lifetime.
Even adults with autism, you don't die from autism, so you can have it your whole lifetime. But adults.
It's a disease. You can have autism your whole lifetime, he says.
even adults with autism, you don't die from autism, so you can have it your whole lifetime. But adults,
You can have autism your whole lifetime. I mean, you may not, but you could. You could be autistic your whole life. And they still frame it as a disease. So for anyone to say that they did not frame autism as a disease, this is Autism Speaks right here, these two people. I know. And so pious. He's just talking instead of autistic people without any consideration for autistic people in that respect.
adults will benefit by services. They'll benefit by therapies. Speech is always an issue. Behavioral issues.
Now he's talking about ABA, behavioral issues, and they do flatly endorse ABA. Don't let them say anything different other than that. They do flatly endorse ABA. Yeah, absolutely.
Concentrations, sort of like ADH and things. All of this has to be dealt with, and we're hoping we can get therapies and drugs to do this.
And we also have to provide the insurance coverage in the next 25 states. Yesterday, the 25th state came in. Imagine insurance wouldn't cover them with their therapies. So that's a big challenge
with ABA
for us, and also the federal government.
We have New York,
and I think now ABA is covered pretty much everywhere. Although some states are a lot better than other states. And if you do have high support needs kids, I know Colorado is one of the better states.
States around it.
Yeah, we do.
Every state around New York State has wonderful autism insurance for their families. New York, the most liberal state, doesn't have it because they can never seem to get together. And we have worked so hard on this issue. And we got the bill passed, and it got vetoed by the governor at the very last days. And so we're going to start over again for about their ninth year.
We will not stop.
Yeah, it's going to get done.
It's going to get done.
For those our viewers in the chat room who have loved ones or children who are just diagnosed with autism, it can be very overwhelming and scary. What do you recommend is the first step?
Go to the autistic community. That's what she's going to say. The first step when somebody's diagnosed is go to the autistic community and get resources directly from the actually autistic community. Not the autism moms, not the ABA people, not Autism Speaks, but the actually autistic community, which it makes up most of the community, probably 90% or more of the community. That's what she's going to say, right?
The first step, I would say, is go to autismspeaks.org.
Oh, nobody could have possibly predicted that would happen. No way.
We have a wonderful kit. It's called The First 100 Days. I know when we got...
Maybe I didn't hear about the 100 days, but it's funny that I have the 100 days of reasons that you should not support, or 100 hours of reasons that you should not support Autism Speaks. Maybe I should make it 100 days.
I didn't know where to go. There was nowhere to go. So I would say if I was somebody just diagnosed, go there, go to autismspeaks.org and see if you can get the kit. If you can't, you can always call our office, and we have a family services unit that is happy to help anyone.
Is there a fee for the kit?
You can download it.
No.
Download it.
You can download it from your computer. You can see it on the computer, or you can actually...
Now, what they're talking about, this is information too. Okay, they do have this little thing, and they have a couple of PDFs that they wrote that are kind of cheesy. But they have a search engine that's like a late 80s search engine. And I've come up with what I call the Autism Speaks Google Challenge. Now, what it is, I saw them, and I can't find the site now. Excuse me. But they were saying they answered 776,000 tickets. And that's, in other words, inquiries into Autism Speaks. Now, all they have to do is, it could be a 30-page letter, and all they have to do is say, see our website. Okay? And even though their site is horrible and it doesn't matter, they can say that they fulfilled that ticket, and they can mark that ticket as filled off. Once they say, send those, go to Autism Speaks website. It does not matter if anyone found any resources or not. They still sent them to resources that could help them. Whereas if you go to Google, you're going to get 10 times better information, more current information, etc. So they do have this set website, and the trick is, the gimmick is, it doesn't really do anything. Same thing with, I think they call it ACT or something like that, or ARC, or some kind of autism response team, ART or something like that. It's the same thing. It doesn't really do anything. If you go to their chat thing, it doesn't really do anything. Watch this. We'll go to their chat bot. So we're going to get through all this junk here, and we're going to go to chat, and then I'm going to pull this over to for a second and put my information in. Wait, try to. Okay, I'm going to put my information in here. And watch what happens here. Okay, so I'm going to put howdy. Howdy. It's been kicked me out. That's the first time I was actually able to get a word in there. But they can say they have a chat bot that answers questions 24 hours a day. See? It's just not working right now. Then that's how they kind of get away with these things and get around those things. And we'll go into a fun new thing on that too here pretty soon. All right.
Get a hard version of it.
Yes. And this is actually a related question in our chat room. Cool Jets would like to know, what are the first signs of autism? Like, how can you tell what's going on with somebody?
Well, that's a good question.
Linux.
Because we were having signs, and the doctors told us not to worry because Christian was speaking and was meeting his milestones, and he started slipping away. And the doctor said because he was a boy and we had another baby born that, the boys do that. Well, in the day of the autism epidemic, that's not allowed. So I would say that any slippage of language, not meeting the milestones, eye contact, there's flapping of the hands, that's very indicative, walking on the toes. I mean, don't get panicked, but certainly be aware and point it out to your pediatrician. It's better safe than sorry. I know when I was getting a little bit hysterical, I was the hysterical grandmother. Well, you know what? I'd rather be that way and safe because time is your enemy. The earlier you get this, the better chance you have with this intervention of getting your child back to being a mainstream when he goes to school.
But eye contact is one of the telltales.
Did you hear that about being a mainstream?
Is an issue, and with autistic children or adults, it's not that their minds aren't functioning. It's just that they're taking in so much more data. Or it's coming through their minds so quickly that they can't lock in on it. So staring at somebody is not normally something that they're comfortable doing. Yeah. They're just moving quickly. Yeah. So that's a good sign.
And what about support for parents? Because we did mention it's overwhelming for them, and I'm sure it's important to really have a support group so they can really talk to other people and find out what they're experiencing and how they're handling it.
Yeah, my daughter was in a support
I want to go back here to where
again you can go to autismspeaks.org.
She's talking about being a mainstream because that's extremely important to understand.
All night long, and they don't have much respite.
That's a good sign.
And what about support for parents? Because we did mention
adults. It's not that
safe because time is your enemy. The earlier you get this, the better chance you have with this intervention of getting your child back to being a mainstream.
To make them be a mainstream, what you're saying, get your child back to make them be a neurotypical or an allistic. What's that? Well, yeah, so they get aggro. That'd be funny. Now, you know what? I don't actually, I mean, yes, it's funny to talk about and stuff, but I definitely want to be really careful with people not doing anything that would be considered wrong or illegal or whatever. Like right now, I am on my tablet here. I am visiting Autism Speaks right here. I am visiting Autism Speaks. I'm on their website. Right here. And I'm just visiting there. Want to make sure nothing happens to it. So that's been on all day, unfortunately.
When he goes to school.
You see how they're using this mainstream language here? She's saying, to get them back to being a mainstream, to get them to back to being a neurotypical person. Money raised from UK government. How do we facilitate this? You know, the thing is this. Actually, this is how you do it. I have been putting hashtag Autism Speaks on most of everything I do. I don't know what happens if you put hashtag in the chat here. I have no idea. Does it? If you put like an at so and so, it goes to that person, right? What happens if you put a hashtag in the chat? But anyway, what's really important here is ABA frames. I just spit when I talk. That's gross. ABA frames it as they are trying to teach a person to not look like the flapping, not look autistic, or not rock, or whatever. That's why you have the quiet hands and so forth. Yeah, but like, does their algorithm pick that up or what? I don't know how that works.
You know what? I'd rather.
And so here they're characterizing it the same as it can be cured and so forth.
Be that way and safe, because time is your enemy. The earlier you get this, the better chance you have with this intervention of getting your child back to being a mainstream.
Back to being neurotypical is what she's saying. Back to being holistic.
When he goes
That's
to school.
a cure talk.
Eye contact is one of the telltale.
Definitely.
Because communication is an issue. And with autistic children or adults, it's not that their minds aren't functioning. It's just that they're taking in so much more data. Or it's coming through their minds so quickly that they can't lock in on it. So, you know, staring at somebody is not normally something that they're comfortable doing. They're just moving quickly. So that's a good sign.
And what about support
That may
for
be true.
parents? Because we did mention it's overwhelming for them, and I'm sure it's important to really have a support group so they can really talk to other people. And
Okay, so support group. So she's talking about support groups. Okay, so where's she going to say? Well, go to Facebook, go to Reddit, go to maybe Instagram or whatever, and you can, maybe even Twitter, or go to wherever and find actually autistic people and think you paid it.
out what they're
No, so let's see what they say here.
experiencing and how they're handling it.
Yeah, my daughter was in a support group, and there are support groups. Again, you can go to autismspeaks.org.
What she said to go on Autism Speaks. And there, by the way, if you go to autismspeaks.org, there is no place to find a group. And it is, what, 11 years later? Over a decade later, and they still don't have it? Right? So it probably wasn't true then, and it's not true now.
It's very important to have a support group because it is overwhelming. Many of these children, and my grandson included, are up all night long. And they don't have much respite at all unless they're in school. So support groups are very important. And again, they can call autismspeaks.org and we'll help them.
Well, we have a lot of material. We have on Facebook. We have Facebook pages and a lot of social networking there. We have Twitter, and the website itself has a lot of deep information where you can go to and access, and it's got phone numbers. It's got places where
the phone number and stuff is that really bad search engine, and it's literally like an 80 search engine. You get in there, and there's just like one line of an address and one phone number. It's really funny.
you can get therapies and things. It's like an enormous encyclopedia for services and things like that. So between all of that, there's plenty of connections you can make quickly.
Now, speaking of therapy, a few years ago, I actually conducted music therapy classes for autistic children, ages 1
and this
to
is cool.
3. Now, the mindset, at least in my community, was unfortunately the kids in that age group weren't given the therapy that they needed. And research was showing that if they get this intervention now, there's a much better chance that they can get into mainstream classrooms at a very early age.
Mainstream classrooms. So once again, this is getting people into mainstream classrooms, and that may not be the best thing. Yes, you got me into mainstream classrooms as a kid, but that was the worst thing you could have done for me. It didn't help me, and it didn't help any of the kids in the class. But it would have made me look neurotypical, and it did. It just was not beneficial. In fact, it was detrimental to me.
You mean that they're not getting the early therapy?
Yes.
They have to fight for it all everywhere, every school district. They'll give it to you, but you need to fight for it. You also need to know your rights, because every child has a right to the right education. So that is a big issue. Parents need to know they have a force behind.
And see, what they're saying here is great, but you see how the tone difference, there's such a different tone here, and the way these people are speaking and the way that other guy was speaking.
Them, and we are the force. I mean, we will help them in any way we can in any school district, because they have that right for that music therapy if that's what's helping the child. My grandson had it. We had to pay for it because it wasn't included in the EPA, but that's okay. As long as they can fight for something in this, they might get it.
But we had a Christian had some of his happiest days down at a school in NYU, a music therapy. And the school closed, though.
Now, see how we're shifting the conversation to actually autistic people and how they're the best qualified to actually talk about autistic people, and you should get a hold of your autistic community so you know about them and so forth.
We supported it too, but it became so many of the kids were autistic, and they just couldn't afford to do it. There was no reimbursement, no insurance, and at $100 a session and so forth, they just weren't able to cover the bills, and it was a sad kind of a thing. But that had a real positive impact.
Without a doubt, I personally saw progress over just a couple of weeks.
Isn't that amazing?
And it was remarkable to know that this is all it took.
Well, if there's anyone
All
out
right,
there in
I'm
the
going
music
to have
industry
to
that wants to help us.
I'm going to have to cut it short here, and I will be back on later this evening. I very much appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much. This is the Autistic Page.